Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of whatever this is. This is not... this is technically Anime Brain Freeze, but it's not our main podcast. John and I have been talking for a while about maybe finding something to record, like finding some topics to do on the side. When there is maybe a bit of a dry spell in terms of anime we want to watch, and maybe we also just don't want to talk about anime all the time. And we were like, hey, we like video games. We regularly have tangents on our anime podcasts about video games. So why?
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
It happens. It is known to happen. So we were thinking, hey, why don't we, if time allows it, if it makes sense to just put that into a season, if we have a free weekend where we maybe want to hang out and record a podcast, why not talk about game stuff, but also make it as simple and easy and easily manageable as possible, meaning no big preparation, just a loose list of topics, and then we have just gonna have a nice chat about shit. We're just gonna shoot the shit, and we're not gonna do like reviews. We're not full reviews. Not scripted reviews. We don't do scripted reviews anyway, but like no notes, no fucking 10 pages of notes for My Hero Academia or whatever crazy bullshit I do on the regular. But just a general game chat about the topics that interest us and the stories that excite us, to quote New Media Plus. But whatever. And I think that's what we're going to do with this. It's not going to happen regularly. It's going to be like a spur of the moment thing where it's like, hey, is there time? Do we want to do this? Maybe once a season, maybe twice a season, maybe twice a year. Who knows? It's just going to be a surprise. And whenever you see this thing pop up, it's a new bonus thing, whatever. And I think for now we've settled on the name FreezeFramesPerSecond, which is fun.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good. So
yeah, it's a bit connected to Anime Brain Freeze, but also to games because of FPS and stuff like that. So let's go with that for now. We will just head it off. We're probably gonna still have some sections, because we're gonna talk about games, of course. Maybe if there are news, we're gonna talk about news, which we have kind of totally scrapped on the main Anime Brain Freeze podcast, unless there's a really big thing happening. And then maybe some special section, I don't know what we're gonna call them, topic du jour, or other editorial, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna call that yet. And a couple of ideas for some other special sections we might want to do. But yeah, let's just hit it off, as the kids say. They probably don't say that anymore. And
do they?
No, Gen Z. Gen Z has I don't understand what they talk about, I guess, because I'm old, and but please let them talk. Let them figure it out. They probably got a better grip on it than we do. Yes, anyway, let's hit it off with the games. So yeah, I've got a couple of games written down. John got a couple of games written down. So yeah, John, feel free to hit us off. Just go with what you played in recent time that, aside from Final Fantasy XIV, which we know is your bread and butter at this point.
Listen, I gotta do my raid every week to get my coin, because I need 30 of them.
So, spoken like a true drug addict.
Listen, if I don't keep running on the gear treadmill,
you're not making things better. Stop elaborating.
Anyway, there's that, which has become a staple. I've been playing the game since, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of thoughts about Dawn Trail. But I thought it was fine. I wouldn't put it as one of my favorite expansions, but I'd say It was good. Not great, not bad. I thought it was good. Mostly because they were like, hey, what if we just gave you two expansions worth of story? And I thought that was neat because, half of it was world building because we're going to this new part of the world that we haven't been to before. We met this new character that everyone except for me and maybe five other people hates. Like nobody seemed to like Wook Lamont, and I sort of get, that they tried to poochie her a little bit, the whole when Wook Lamont isn't on screen, everybody should be asking, where's Wook Lamont? And there's kind of a scene where they do that without saying that, and it's like,
Well, are they aware that they're doing that, or?
I kind of feel like they were aware they were leaning into a little bit.
Well,
But that said, I don't dislike the character. She sort of hires us, the playable character, as as a pinch hitter for her team in this rite of succession, which then plays into this back half of the story it's been half a year, where there's this like hidden high-tech society thing where one of the participants in the rite of succession was like, hey, I don't like this. I'm going to become a dictator now. And it was just like, whoa, okay, sure.
all right.
Also, it may tie into a lot of threads from Final Fantasy IX. That's a thing.
Oh.
FF14 is mostly its own thing, but there are points where like, hey, what if other game though, like 6.1 through 6.5 was like, do you remember Final Fantasy 4? Yes, I remember Final Fantasy 4. Thank you.
I was
And
about
that
to
story
say
was
they had a bunch of stuff from other games in there, right? I mean, I'm still stuck in Heavensward, so I wouldn't know. But I remember there being different weapons from different games, and also just whole levels like the Doom Train stuff or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there have been raid bosses and this, that, the other thing where it's like, oh, we're gonna pull from this game. We're gonna pull from this game. And they make them feel unique and cool, which is
So is that like a Dissidia situation where they're actually pulling these into this shared universe, characters from those games into this shared universe, like a multiverse
not really.
thing? Okay,
Not really,
so
no.
it's just an homage.
The only time they actually really directly did that, and it was directly, but it wasn't, was the Return to Ivalice raid series where they had a character named Ramza, but it wasn't the Ramza. They had like characters with those names, but it was, like it's this guy, but it's not this guy, because that would complicate things now, wouldn't it? But with the raid series they're doing now, it's like, yes, no, it's just the characters from Final Fantasy XI because shut up, don't worry about it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's fine. I wonder if I'll ever get there. Probably once I'm retired. I'll pick up Final Fantasy XIV again if it's still all playable by then, and then I'll go through all the different extensions and go through them, Shadowbringers and Endwalkers, which I've heard so many good things about, and it's like
Shadowbringers and Heavensward for me were peak.
Okay, well, I liked Heavensward so far.
Yeah.
I thought it was really fun. But again, I'm just I think at the very end of that, and what would be next? Stormblood
is after that.
Stormblood, which people seem to be mixed on. So
I don't dislike Stormblood, but it's definitely the weakest of the expansions.
Oh wow, okay, even weaker than Dawn Trail.
Yeah, I would definitely put Stormblood at the bottom.
Okay, well,
I mean, there's people who don't agree with me, but I'm like, no, I don't.
Okay.
I don't hate it, but there's parts of it that I was like, okay.
Eventually I'll find out if I still can get into my account, because if I remember correctly, my token is on my dead phone, and
Oh no.
Well, we'll see. I can still reactivate that. If I can't, I will never play Final Fantasy XIV again, because that would kill me if I had to build a completely new character after putting so many hours into this, and we're like, yeah, fuck it, then it's dead. Let the dead lie.
Yeah, FF14 has been a constant over the past decade for me. I think it's a really good, fun game. I think if you're looking to try it, here's your meme about the free trial through level 70 and the Stormblood expand. Play it for. There's so much of the game you can play for free.
Mhm.
That's probably the best way to gauge if you want to actually buy and subscribe to the game. So you could play that game for, depending on your pace, 8 months to a year on Square's dime.
Is it still, aside from the free stuff, is it still a big money maker for Square? I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
Okay.
That's what. Are you kidding? They siphon off all the funds from FF14 subs for all of the other stuff that doesn't do well, like
Well, I knew they were doing
Home
that
Stars.
at some point. I wasn't sure if they were still able to do that, but glad to hear it. I mean, this would already be okay if Final Fantasy XIV wasn't a stellar game, but apparently it is. There's a reason why it's so high regarded in the MMO space and everything. So,
Well, everyone knows at this point the big turnaround the game had after 1.0. So
yeah, there's a great documentary about it.
yes,
I think it's No Clip Studios or whatever. So check that out. It's very interesting.
yeah. The other big constant for me has been Pokemon TCG Pocket. Um, Never really played the physical card game. The only physical card game I really got into at any point was Yu-Gi-Oh! And I love Yu-Gi-Oh, but I hate Yu-Gi-Oh trying to play that game, every card description is you have to go read the entire library of Alexandria's worth of text.
More like Yugi No.
Yeah. And I mean, I like the idea behind it. I like that it was that when it started off, it was trying to be, a more simplified thing compared to Magic. Now Magic is less complex in comparison. But just kind of installed TCG Pocket one day and I just keep pulling cards and building decks and it's a fun time waster that is very low commitment compared to playing the actual physical card game because I see people were trying to pull for certain cards in real life and it's like I'm glad you have a goal to shoot for, but how? Oh no, because the state of trying to actually get Pokemon cards is bad. I don't know if you personally have seen brawls that have broken out in Costco, people trying to
What?
actually get cards.
No.
It's bad.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's of course now that the ape currency has tanked. The new and final currency of this world, once it all goes up into flames, will be Pokemon trading cards.
Oh
And
yeah,
those
people
people
are
know that, and they want to make sure to survive. So of course they're brawling about it now.
they're scalping the heck out of them, and of course the
Mm,
value of the cards is set by the market. So one card that could be 5 cents one day could be 200 the next.
mm. The
So that's
market
why I'm
controls
like,
itself. What a dumb sentiment.
So that's why I'm like, hey, I'll just play this phone game that I don't have to put any money into. Yay!
Yeah.
So, that's been fun. I am basically I've made no secret about how much I love Princess Connect, and after Crunchyroll shuttered it, I have sworn a blood vengeance against them.
Okay.
So I am right now instead waiting. I am in the Uma Musume waiting room. So I want to see how that game is when it releases. Because I have bounced between a lot of mobile games. Right now, TCG Pocket has been the good one for me. But, it's like maybe one other one in there. To the people who play like 5 or 6 or more mobile games, why?
Yeah.
Like I could maybe do one or two, but more than that, it's like
One is one enough. One too much for me, actually. I don't even remember what was the last mobile game I played. I think probably Hearthstone. And after that, I was like, yeah, I think I'm good.
to give some comparison. The last game I really actively played before Princess Connect was Oh God, it changed names like 3 times. What did they call it when it ended service? Kingdom Hearts Union Cross.
All right.
And I played a little bit of Final Fantasy Record Keeper before that, but it didn't really stick the way Union Cross did. So that has been my pipeline. I have not stuck with very many mobile games because the games as a service wasteland is just that.
Hmm. Yeah. And so many of them are just, because there's no real interest for them. They just think there is, and then they, activate them, and then they just disappear after an incredibly short turnaround or whatever. So,
I mean, like Symphogear X Drive Unlimited, the global version lasted 7 months, I think.
mm.
And people are like, "Oh, Crunchyroll killed that." No, no, no. Crunchyroll had no hand in that. That was a different publisher. They just decided the game wasn't profitable and axed it.
Great.
Kind of like with Love Live School Idol Festival 2. That was around for 2.5 months, dude.
Wow.
It was so unhinged. They announced the launch date and the end of service date in the same tweet.
I mean, at least people knew what they were getting.
Maybe the games as a service bubble is finally popping.
One can only hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But that's mobile games for me. I think TCG Pocket is a fun time waster. The cards, they got the cool art, and it's a fun condensed version of the actual card game. Like some of the rules on some of the cards are different than the actual game, which it makes sense to change it around a little bit since it's a slightly different format, which is interesting. Because I played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, and all the cards remained the same. It was just the format itself was condensed down. So you can make it work one way or another if you try, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But, transitioning off of that, I guess we'll stay with Pokemon because I have been trying to work on Legends Arceus. And I guess I should try harder because we'll have another bit we'll be talking about a little bit later. We'll at least touch on.
Mm-hmm.
But Legends Arceus is, I guess, the Pokemon Company's, I guess, technically second try at an open world Pokemon game because the bones of it were with Sword and Shield with the wild areas. Like the map as a whole was an open world. And then they did this with Legends Arceus where they sort of broke it up into different zones. And then Scarlet Violet came after that where they were like, here's the whole map. And they pulled the Skyrim saying, you see that mountain? You can
For some
climb
reason
it.
I thought that Arceus came before Sword and Shield, but I guess I was wrong. So...
it did. Wait, no, did it? No, hold on. No, I thought it came after.
No, you're probably right. It makes more sense, but
there's so many. Number one, there's so many games.
mm-hmm.
Number two, there's so many games that you can look at and say, yeah, this was definitely a test environment for. Yeah, okay, I wasn't crazy. Sword and Shield was 2019. Legends Arceus and Scarlet Violet were both 2022. What do you mean they were both the same year? Okay.
That explains it.
You can tell that some games are like a test environment for other games. And I have said this to you and some of our other friends that I firmly believe that the Bowser's Fury part of the Switch re-release of Mario 3D World is a test environment for the next 3D Mario. Like, I feel that way 100%.
Could be the case, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised either.
But, Legends Arceus, they're trying something different. There's different evolutions in there because it's sort of like an ancient, timey version of the region from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, which I think that was probably one of the last ones you played, right? Or did you play XY? You played XY.
I played XY. That was actually Y was the first Pokemon game I ever played, and
Oh, okay. I thought you had touched Gen 4. My bad.
no. Just Y, and then the next one was half of Sword, I think. Maybe not even a half. I'm not sure. I stopped in the middle. I still got
Please.
Arceus laying around here. Someone gifted that to me because they didn't want to. They got that in a bundle and didn't want to play a Pokemon game. And I was like, okay, thank you very much. And I also haven't touched it yet. So.
I mean, Nintendo has been making this. I mean, I guess the Pokemon Company and Game Freak aren't exactly first party Nintendo, but it feels like Nintendo has been making a push to try and make these open world games. Like, I didn't like Breath of the Wild, and they didn't touch Tears of the Kingdom, but those were definitely. Breath of the Wild was definitely the first try at this. And then they're like, hey, what if some of our other franchises could do the same thing? And I feel like Legends Arceus is a bit more engaging on that. Just because you're going around, there's more different environments. There's the variety of the little critters to catch. There's a whole bunch of them. You do this and all that. I mean, I have been playing Pokemon since close to the beginning. Jesus Christ, the game's launched in 1996, dude.
Yeah, that's a while. When did the anime launch? Was it at the same time?
I don't think it was at the same time. I want to say it was probably. I'm going to check it right now, but I am going to guess 1998. Let's see how wrong I am, because I am willing to, like, me, I'm always willing to be wrong. Pokemon the anime started in 97. Okay. I was close. And then Ash only won the championship once.
Hey, better than never. Took him a while.
Did you know that much like Detective Conan, there's been less than a year that's passed in Ash's journey?
Of course.
Shut up, don't think about it.
Doesn't make a lick of sense. Like, there are more than 365 episodes in that show. So how does that work?
Some of them take place at night.
Aha.
But no, yeah, I do this weird thing in every Pokemon game where I'm like, hey, what if I try building a team that is actually native to, that region? Just to, experience, see what's new, experience what's new.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I have been trying to build this time around was stuff that has native, the Hisui, which is the name of the region in Legends Arceus, evolutions, because, there are regional variants of stuff that came before. So, that has been a neat experiment to do from game to game. So, I like doing that. I think it's a fun exercise to be like, okay, how can I stretch this team composition? How can I best build something with all of the types that I need? Like, I'm big on having a lot of type coverage and having dual type Pokemon, and I have said this before, but when I went to play the second remake, Jesus Christ, of Gen 1, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, it reminded me of how much I hate Gen 1 because the type coverage in that game sucks. There's barely any dual types, which, obviously back in 1990, whenever the game started development, 94, 95, 96, they were still figuring things out. But it was just like, going back to those is still like, oh God, this is rough. It's real rough. So even though there's been, some homogenization across the generations, it's almost a 30-year-old franchise. Of course, that's going to happen. There's still some fun to be had with team composition. So, that's what I like to. That's the fun I have made out of the Pokemon games.
I mean, that makes sense. Make your own fun out of it. I don't even know if I had any strategy. I was just looking, this book's interesting. This Pokemon looks
that's a valid
fun.
way to play too.
Yeah.
That's a valid way to play too. Does this Pokemon look cool? Get in the team.
Aside from having, one of each dominant element in there, so I could, if necessary, would have a counter element. I mean, you can't account for everything, but you know, if you're like, oh, okay, I'm in this region, there are a lot of these and these types running around, so I'm just gonna put that in here, and yeah, that was pretty much always my approach. But again, I haven't played many of these games and definitely never completed any of them. Well, no, that's not true. I completed Y. I completed Y. Didn't get all the Pokemon, of course, but I played through the story, quote unquote.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me what happened in X and Y, I wouldn't be able to tell you. So maybe I'll need a refresher before ZA comes out in November.
I really like the style of Sword, where it was like had a bit of a foot, and that's what they were going for, because it was like a UK styled world, right? That it was set in, so it had a bit of a football vibes during the gigantic battles in the stadiums, also with the music and everything. And I really like the battle theme of Sword.
Yeah,
it's really great. But still, I arrived at some point where it's like, okay, now I need to do what? And I forgot, and I stopped playing. So, I don't know.
Fair enough.
There's never that much story in those games, and
I mean, they're made for kids.
Yes, nah, I accept that, but also I don't like that excuse where it's like, hey, you can also, all the games we played as kids on the Super Nintendo and stuff like that, they were also made for kids, but some of them had really strong stories that just strung you along anyway, or the gameplay was really fun. And the gameplay in Pokemon is fun, but also when it comes down to it, it's, baby's first RPG. So,
I mean, it stayed the same for so long.
Probably by mandate.
We'll talk about that We'll talk about that later on, because I have something else to say about that.
Interesting. Yes.
But yeah, Pokemon has been a gaming phenom for so long. But aside from that, I guess I'll touch on a couple other things real quick. So I have this one friend who I made in this online gaming community called the Backloggery, and her birthday was late January.
Mm-hmm.
I promise this plays into what I'm going to say.
Late happy birthday to that person.
Yes. So a mutual friend of ours in that community was like, hey, what do you want for your birthday? And she was like, I don't know, just play some games. So the extension of that became, okay, how many games can you finish on her birthday?
Oh, okay.
So the obviously trying to finish a whole 60-hour RPG in one day and a thing. So you do some prep time before that. So in one day, and I'll run through them, in decent order, there was, for me, the first step in a long journey I've been meaning to take, and that is Makai Toshin Saga, also known as the Final Fantasy Legend, which is sure a 1989 Game Boy game.
That can mean a lot of things. Not necessarily good ones.
I think, okay, in current era, trying to play through this game without a guide is a fool's errand.
Yeah, there are many of those. Legend of Mana comes to mind.
Yeah. However, I think that it's a fascinating game because it's the first in the Saga series, which is sort of the weird stepbrother to Final Fantasy, where the games are more, I wouldn't say open-ended, but openly structured. Like, the game just puts you down and says, okay, go, figure it out.
Yeah.
And in some games, the guidance is a little better than others from what I've heard. This is the only one I have played beginning to end. I've touched on some of the other ones, and I would like to get to playing Romancing Saga proper.
That's probably Saga Frontiers is, I think, the other one I know about. And I know there are so many more. And there's still new ones coming out, apparently.
Yeah, there's the original Saga games on the Game Boy. There's Romancing Saga on, which was a big Super Nintendo game series. which we talked about last time we talked about Yubel Blatt,
Yeah.
because lifting bits of the story.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's Saga Frontier, Unlimited, Saga Scarlet Grace, Saga Emerald Beyond. They tried to make some games, some like browser games, a couple mobile games. There was Emperor Saga, Imperial Saga, Romancing Saga, Universe, Imperial Saga, Eclipse. Those games surely exist.
Hmm.
I don't think the idea of Romancing Saga translates well to a mobile game because in Romancing Saga 1, 2, and 3, and some of the other games, you don't level up in the traditional sense. You learn by doing. That is to say, your characters will have, I think the translated term is a glimmer. Like your character will have like a literal aha moment in the middle of a battle, and they'll learn something new in that moment, and that's how you play the game. By trying different weapons, by having different combinations of characters in your party, by casting different spells. So it's really cool like that. It encourages you to try new things, see what happens. It is the literal fudge around and find out game.
In the positive way, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Final Fantasy Legend 1, 2, and 3, at least from what I played of Legend 1, isn't so much like that. It's a bit more rigid where the game starts you off. It says, okay, choose what race of character you want to be. Okay, and now choose 3 more characters. And you have your standard humans. Humans can how can I say this? Humans are bad at magic. However,
you could have ended it there, like before at magic.
Yes. Humans are bad at magic, but they can wield a lot of different weapon types like really well because you get these upgrades throughout the game that you can just spend on yourself that increase your strength and your agility bit by bit because they're basically strength weapons, agility weapons, blah 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 blah. You have mutants, which were originally called espers, I believe, in the original translation, so go figure on that translation, who have less equipment slots, but they're more adaptable because their stats grow naturally through the course of battle. And they're really good at casting magic, but their downside is, that spell that you've been using for like 20 battles now that you really like, I learned a different one that takes it over its spot instead.
That's not great.
Yes, but that's why save scumming exists. And then there's monsters, and monsters get stronger by eating the meat of other monsters that you beat in battles. So it's not guaranteed that a monster that you beat that you defeat will drop its meat, but when you do, you can have a monster eat it and there's a chance it will change into something else. And there's several big long tables online that you could reference to see how that works. And I mean, it can be fun to do that blindly and just figure it out for yourself. But I was like, okay, I'm looking down this long table and I'm like, which has the skill set that'll work the best? How do I get there? And it takes a lot of if you want to actively figure it out, it takes a bit of brain power. But that all aside, it makes the game really cool to just mess around with and try. And it's definitely the first of its series. It definitely is like, yeah, this sure is a 1989 game, like I said at the top. But I think it's cool. So there was I wouldn't really call it a full remake. There was a port of it to the WonderSwan Color, whose one big quality of life change is if you've played the original Final Fantasy on the NES, one of the most infuriating things is, so this enemy died and it was targeted by one of your other characters before it died, so that attack doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what happens in the Final Fantasy Legend? The same thing. There's a change in the WonderSwan Color version that says, you can switch that off. So the attack will
Nice.
go to the next available target, which is like, thank you.
Did they also
The
fix that for the, whatever
Yeah, for
anniversary?
all of the co-sequent remakes of FF1, which there have been at this point, I think three, no, more than three, maybe like 4 or 5 at this
There was one
point.
for the PSP. There's the newest one, the Pixel Collection, whatever, which I'm definitely gonna dive into at some point because I've never played Final Fantasy 1 to 6.
Yeah,
But
there was a Wonder Swan version. There's the
mm,
GBA version, the
mm.
PSP version, the PS1
Oh
version,
Jesus. Okay.
the Pixel remaster. So
All
there are
right.
at least 5 that I can think of. There might be more. It was probably on mobile at some point too. Sure, throw that on the pile. Yes, Final Fantasy Legend is cool. It was definitely the first of its kind. I played it in the collection of Saga that Square put out. I don't remember when, a couple years ago.
Hmm.
So I got the original Game Boy experience, but I think that collection was developed by M2, who are code wizards.
Oh yeah.
So they put in the big quality of life change they put in was you can play the game at double speed,
That's always
which
great.
which is crucial.
Mm.
But here's the thing. They separated that out from the game's actual emulation, so it doesn't affect stuff like the sound effects or the music, which is
Mm.
great.
Yeah, that's smart.
So, and I think the same thing applies to Legend 2 and Legend 3 in that collection. But I'm more interested, I guess I'm interested in those games from a historical standpoint, but I'm more interested in playing the DS remakes of Saga 2 and 3 at some point, just to see what quality of life changes they put in there too.
Mm.
So those will probably be how I play Saga 2 and 3.
Okay.
That was a long diatribe for a 26-year-old, 36-year-old game? 36-year-old game. I can math.
Hey, I mean, remember the classics, right?
Yes.
So there's always an old game that is worth going back to, especially if you've never played it. And I intend, like I said, to do that with some of the games that are big black spots, marks, whatever in my gaming history. Is like, wow, how have I never played this? So
Mhm.
this will probably be popping up at some point in this show.
Yes. Um, the other 2 games that I played for my friend's birthday, I will try and keep a little more brief since they are decidedly more modern.
Well, also, I have played those two, so I don't mind talking
Yes.
about those a bit longer.
But yes, the first one of which was Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger X2.
Yes.
I have been trying to make my way through the Gunvolt games
Hmm.
because, they are definitely the logical successor to Mega Man. Mega Man Zero, I guess,
More
because
Mega
they're
Man
developed by
Zero, I
Inti
would say.
Creates.
And also, not in terms of... Depends on which character you play as, because
True.
Gunvolt has a very... Is not... You can't play Gunvolt himself as much in speed mode as you can play Zero. Because, the nature of the electric field you have to use to kill the enemies and whatever, it feels like that you at some point have to stop and wait, and make sure that you hit all of the enemies on the screen and whatever. You can't necessarily rush through it if you want to get a good score or whatever. And
Mm.
also, it's just not as fast paced as the Zero games are, in my opinion. So,
I think, though, it was I think if you couldn't double press down to get back all of your electrical energy, the game would feel even slower
oh
paced.
yeah.
Which I think they looked at that and they were like, no, this is it. It was probably something that came up in early tests. They were like, no, we need a way to mitigate this. And I feel like if that wasn't in there, the game would be a lot more of a slog. So I think it works great the way it is, to be honest.
But it's also really fun in terms of them sticking more and more characters into that series that play more like Zero and play completely different. It was like, well, maybe we didn't think that through, and actually Gunvolt is the worst out of all the characters. And so we're just gonna... I mean, like... I don't even remember if you can actually play him in 3. The main character is the girl... Oh, I forgot her name. But she's definitely she plays definitely more like Zero and more like Copen in the two and he is the main character of Luminous Avenger 1 and 2. So it's like at some point the Gunvolt series moved away from Gunvolt, which is funny.
the Gunvolt extended universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, playing as Copen is definitely
Or Akira.
Yeah, depending on which language you're
Mm-hmm.
playing, is definitely a bit different because it's not as run and gun. It's you have to actually smash your face into an enemy before you can attack it.
Yeah, you have to dash. It's a bit of a Mighty Number 9 thing, but you don't dash through them. You dash against them, and then they get tagged, and then you shoot them.
It's a Mighty Number 9 thing, but it doesn't suck.
Yeah, and Mighty Number 9 also had that kind of character with, what was it called? Ray?
Yeah,
Zero
that's
to
right.
Mighty Number 9, or Blues, or whatever, to, Mighty Number 9's Mega Man or X. And I think Ray played the same way that Copen does. Exactly the same way, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I didn't play as Ray. I didn't even finish Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, but I feel like just if you compare Gunvolt and Copen's gameplay, Copen's gameplay is feels a bit more active because you, like you said, you fucking jam, you dash into these enemies, you jam your head against them, and then they get like basically tagged with a target reticle, whatever, and then you can shoot them with your gun, your special attack. It does more damage if you do that, and you get a lock on, a homing thing, and so on, and that feels in some ways more active than doing that with your gun. What you do with Gunvolt, you tag them by shooting them, not dashing into them. And then you can actually hit them with your electrical field or whatever. They kind of have the same thing, but Copen feels a bit more aggressive than Gunvolt.
I also like that Copen has the weapon switching, like a Mega Man X or classic Mega Man, because,
Yeah.
Gunvolt has different gun types, but it doesn't really inherently change the way he attacks.
Not necessarily, no. But yeah, the weapon types are different, and gotta say, I didn't like the default weapon in X2 as much as in X1 in general. Like, some of the gameplay changes in X2.
It took me a while to realize that Gunvolt has a 1-2-3 combo like Zero in X2.
Copen, you mean?
Yes, that's oh my god.
Yes, he does. Yeah. They try to make him more like Zero in this, so because now he has kind of like a sword, but it's a chainsaw or whatever. But
it kind of works.
Yeah, it works. It's fun, but I feel like also sometimes that doesn't really gel with the way his base gameplay is constructed, and it feels a bit off, and I don't know. But it's still, I like that game. I think the final boss was absolute bullshit.
Yeah, I think I had to use the healing like 7 or 8 times. And then they're like, oh, you unlocked hard mode. Do it again with no healing. And I'm like, well,
nope.
See you later.
I was happy once I was done with that because it was fucking crazy. That final thing is like, you went really overboard with this.
The thing is, the only reason I'm thinking about doing it again is because I haven't looked it up. I don't know if the ending changes. It probably does, knowing NT Creates, because they love doing that on different difficulty levels.
I mean, I think it changed a bit. I looked some part of the ending up on YouTube, I think, because I didn't want to do the hard mode. I think there is a different ending there, but I was like, nope, I'm not. No way. It's like, fuck that. I mean, the rest of the game is super fun, and I like the first one as well. I don't know why they added in the second one the weird thing. You can do this special move with Copen, where it, like, animation or whatever fills the whole screen.
Oh,
and
yeah.
In the first one, it was just like a still frame, and it looked like super cool in a way, because like this, got this cool anime graphic, and then all the characters, all the enemies on screen die or whatever. And in 2, they decided to have these minimal animation parts on it, like these animation loops, where you have seen them before, especially in mobile games, where only parts of the characters' bodies moves on their character portraits, like only the head slightly or the shoulders or whatever. And it looks so shitty.
That's the power of live 2D, baby.
It looked so shitty. It looked so distracting. It's like, wait, this looks so much less impactful than having just a still frame that comes flying in, because it feels like he's just hanging in the air and just hovering and breathing. It looks so stupid. I don't know why they decided to do that. it made it much less impactful when you did that. It just looked stupid.
I guess I get it, but I don't know. I didn't really pay it much mind.
I don't know. It jumped out at me immediately. It's like, what? Why? Because it looked cool in the first one, and I was like, why would you make this worse actively? Maybe they thought it was better because it had animation in it, but then have him actually do something like, slash the screen with his sword or whatever, or shoot the screen or whatever, not just have the arms move a little up and down. It just looks incredibly stupid.
Yeah, well,
but
it is what it is.
Aside from that, it was really fun. I think I jammed a little more with the gameplay of Luminous Avenger X1 because it felt more classic shoot 'em up Mega Man X style to a specific degree than X2 does. And also you got more overpowered weapon in X1, I feel like, where you could just take the enemies to town. I think X2 was a bit more balanced, which, okay. But in that regard, X1 was more fun. And X2 looked a lot better. I think that was already was that already their Gunvolt 3 engine or whatever they use? The backdrops look much prettier than in X1, I think.
It may have been, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I should probably be able to knock these games out faster because they're not that long, but I just keep putting it off. But I'll try to get to Gunvolt 3 at some point because I played all the other ones.
Gunvolt 3 is very fun. I think the only
and then there's the rhythm game, Chronicle.
Well, I've never played that, but I have fun with that. I think the only other thing that bothered me about X2 is that it was kind of an alternate universe thing instead of following up on the story of X1, which by itself was already an alternate universe take on the story from Gunvolt. Yeah. And the thing is, they still could have done stuff with the ending of Copen/Akira from Gunvolt 2, where it's like, hey, you have places you can take the story from there with the sister and everything. And they don't do that. Instead, there's like, no, it's now an alternate universe take. And once you're done with that alternate universe take, he's going to be transported. He's going to get isekai'd to a fucking post-apocalyptic desert world or whatever. And like, what? Why?
Who knows? Maybe that's what they can do with X3.
Yeah, if that ever sees the light of day. I don't even know what Inti is doing right now. I mean, the most recent thing they released was that Gunvolt 3 or was that Blaster Master 0? I don't remember. 3, I don't remember. What
the last thing they released?
Wasn't it that cat person game?
Oh god. Well, their output is somehow actually crazy.
It is. Yeah.
But since 2023, there's been Gal Guardians Demon Purge, Yohane the Parhelion.
Oh yeah, right there, Yohane stuff.
Chronicle, Puzzmix, Umbra Claw, Card and Seal.
Umbra Claw, that's what I was thinking of.
And Divine Dynamo Flame Frit. Like I remember trying the demo for Umbra Claw, and I was just like, I don't know, man.
Like Yohane the Parhelion.
Backlog.
I would imagine that would be the first game for you to gravitate towards because it has a Love Life connection.
I mean, and it's also an action platformer game, so I feel like anyone could enjoy it.
Sure, but for you especially, I would imagine, hey, there's something to immediately latch onto, so putting that at the top of your list when it comes to, at least that kind of genre.
I mean, that's true. The game was also, I said this previously, it was also announced on an April Fool's Day thing. So I was like, oh, this game is not real. And then it came out and everyone was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Mm-hmm. And then a friend of ours and I went to, I don't remember if I told this story on the podcast. We went to Anime Expo one year and Yohane Yoshiko's voice actress just sort of popped up at Inti Creates' booth. Mm-hmm. She was just there for a photo op and to sign her name on the standee of the character they had there. And I was just like, Huh?
Cool.
What just happened?
Mm.
So that was neat. But yes, Inti Creates somehow puts out a crazy amount of games. I mean, they've got another one coming out soon, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, yeah,
Uh,
Gunvolt. There are
so
many Gunvolt games.
what did you like more, X1 or X2?
That's tough because it's been a while since I played X1, but I feel like, yeah, it was probably a little more traditional, like you were saying, but I sort of liked the different weapons in X2 because
Mm.
I felt like there was a little more variety, again,
Yeah,
not quite as OP, but you could still figure out some weirdo cool stuff to do with them. So I feel like from that standpoint, maybe I like X2 a little better, but the story in X1 was definitely a lot more interesting.
yeah, agreed.
Last one for me. Uh, this is when you also played Metroid Dread.
Yes, and very much enjoy it. I think it's probably one of my favorite Metroid games at this
I
point. I
don't,
played through it twice.
I don't know if I'd rank it quite that high. I think Zero Mission and Super edge it out a bit, but coming off of Mercury Steam's last work with Samus Returns,
Mm.
it was definitely a vast improvement. Like I hated Samus Returns.
I never played it. But before I played Dread, I had a whole run up to it by playing through, well, Zero Mission, so remake of one. The fan remake of Samus Returns. So
Oh yeah,
another
AM2R.
AM2R. I specifically chose that instead of the 3DS Mercury Steam version because I heard mixed things about it, and also it didn't look great in my opinion. It's like, hey, this looks great, like especially for a fan remake. There was so much work put into this, and I've never played the original, so this seems to be the way to go, and I enjoyed it very much. I thought that another Metroid 2 remake was fantastic. Of course, as always, fuck Nintendo for shooting these kinds of fan projects in the butt immediately, for like sabotaging them instead of being like, hey, you did a great thing. How about we just buy that shit from you and license it and make it part of our own game release? Like, I
That would
will
make
never.
sense though.
There's probably some legality stuff that makes that difficult, but why the fuck? Why don't they even try?
I
Like,
don't know,
I
man.
will never. There's so many great fan games out there. I've played some recently that I really enjoyed from the Mega Man sphere. I will probably talk about them eventually as well.
Mm.
But it's like Capcom is much more lenient when it comes to fan games. Like, they just let, hey, as long as you don't ask for money, just go for it, right?
Yeah,
That
Capcom and Sega are pretty lax on
Yeah,
that.
their policies are great on this. But again,
The
also just maybe go out on a limb on some of these that are really good and just get these guys, or at least get these games and tell the guys, hey, is it okay? We buy them from you. Maybe you make, I don't know, 10 cent on every sale or whatever. Like, otherwise they can't sell them anyway. And it's like, hey, and then, or $1, or I don't know what's fair in the game space, depending on how much money they ask for it anyway. Make it a
mm,
very slow, low-key release for like $5 or something like that. And then have it, but put some, official release, you know, chops behind it. And actually make it not maybe disappear into the ether. I don't know. That would be great. Some of these games definitely deserve this, and another Metroid 2 remake was definitely one of them. I enjoyed that thoroughly. I'm super sad that it just had to be canceled. Of course, you can still get it. It's out there. It's on the internets. Search,
everything lives on the internet forever.
yes, like search your torrent search sites or whatever. It will be there. There's some place to get this, some internet form or whatever, and I would recommend you doing that. And judging from what John said, definitely get that over the 3DS version of Samus
Yeah,
Returns.
I played a little bit of AM2R when it wasn't finished yet. Like it was definitely still going through development.
Mm,
Um, I think the final battle, I think the battle with the Queen Metroid
yeah.
in Samus Returns was done really well, and it's really cool.
Hmm.
Everything else leading up to that point and everything after, like the final boss they added after that was like, why is Ridley here?
Yeah.
Why is he the last boss? Why does this matter? This is stupid.
Yeah. It kind of also robs the ending of its atmosphere. I know what they
Yeah.
were trying to do with this, like a gotcha moment, right? There's one more thing that wasn't in the original, right? So, and it's supposed to be a lead into Super Metroid. I get it because Ridley steals the baby from the research station or whatever. But also, like, that makes that less impactful because technically you haven't seen Ridley since the first game. And oh, he's back. Oh, he's stealing the fucking baby Metroid or whatever. And if he appears in the second game, that shit is not as cool in Super Metroid. So why even do it?
Like, yeah, because in the original Metroid 2, I don't think he was there at all.
No, you just get the baby and you get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not in another Metroid 2 remake. He's not there. You just get the baby after baiting the Metroid Queen, and you fly off the planet, and you're done. And it has this nice coda where you're like, just the baby helps you get out of the fucking from the core of the planet, and you get to the ship, and it's just following you, and there's this nice soundtrack and everything, and it's very mellow, and it's like a really nice slow fade out of the game compared to all the other Metroid games where you got a timer ticking down on you. And
there's no time bomb set get out fast?
I don't think so, at least not from a specific moment on anymore. I'm pretty sure there isn't. I think your timer is the fucking Metroid Queen. But I might be misremembering. But I don't think there is a timer ticking down on you after you beat her. So yeah, I enjoyed that, and after that, of course, I played Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion, and then I played Dread. Did you only play? Did you play any of the other games again before playing Metroid Dread, aside from Samus Return?
I did not. I had played all of the other ones. With the exception of like Metroid Prime Hunters, I guess.
Count.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's any Metroid games I haven't touched.
Metroid Pinball.
I mean, you know what? Metroid Prime Pinball is fun.
Yes,
actually.
I heard it's good.
I guess the only two I haven't played all the way through, I've at least put hands on them, are the original NES Metroid and Return of Samus. Mm-hmm. Like, those two I haven't played all the way through. I have played them in some form, though. I know everyone likes to hem and haw about Other M.
Sure. Well, I finished that game.
I forgot about Federation Force.
Well, nobody played that.
Exactly. But yes. So Dread was sort of nice to see that, hey, maybe Mercury Steam learned a little bit.
I would say it did.
From Samus Returns, because it feels faster. It feels more snappy.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot more upgrades than I was actually anticipating. Because at one point, the upgrade screen is full. It's like, oh, so I have everything. No, you don't, idiot. So, that was neat to see how they had some fun with like the Aeon powers as well. That was actually pretty interesting.
The suits look cool. Like, I really like the gravity suit in this, and I'm still waiting for my Figma of this Max Factory. Get the fuck to it.
I can't believe it doesn't already exist.
It's so weird. It's like
It's been 4 years since the game released.
Only the normal one, and I don't like that as much in terms of the color scheme, but I really like the gravity suit from Dread. I think it looks amazing. And of course, then there's the final thing. Oh, spoilers, of course, full spoilers for all the games we're talking about. Just in case you people weren't aware, but holy shit, the finale of this game. What the fuck? I mean, I like this from beginning to end. Like you said, I think it plays incredibly. I think it has the best. If it's not the best Metroid game, which I would argue it's not in terms of atmospheres, Super Metroid still got it beat and everything, and of course cult status and whatever. But I would say it controls better than Super Metroid. There are some places in Super Metroid where you feel like you're controlling a goddamn sack of rice. And yeah, Meridia, anyone?
No.
then you play this, and it's like at some point, especially after you get the speed booster, you double jump, whatever, you just zip zap through the whole fucking map, and it's so much fun to play. Like, I don't like, traversal puzzles usually because I get frustrated easily with those. In this game, I was just clamoring for more of these, just trying to get to the parkour stuff, going through there as efficiently as possible. There's this one thing where you have to get through this underwater maze as quickly as possible with the speed boosters and whatever. And it's so much fun. I feel like the movement in this game is fucking peak. Like, it's so much fun to play.
Some of the Shine Spark puzzles were like, I had to really sit down and like figure it out and then lock in. I was like, okay, how do I do this? Like, I see where I need to go, but how do I execute on this in particular? Because some of them are like, oh boy.
Yeah, but again,
you have to shine spark into an incline, run up the hill, store the energy, jump up, shine spark up again, run up the next hill, store the energy, shine spark straight up. It's like, Jesus Christ. Oh my God, it's some of the most complex stuff in the whole series, I feel like.
Yes, but the game can take it because the movement is so good. Like, if there was one really frustrating aspect in the movement that could break the whole thing, like that could make all of these puzzles so unfun to play and just so frustrating, and none of them really are, aside from, like, if you fuck it up, it's your fault. It's not the game's fault, in my opinion. And that's how it's supposed to feel. And I got that constantly from Dread. Every time I fucked it, I was like, okay, I know what I did wrong here. I know how to do better next time. And I never felt like it was the game's fault. And it was like, you fucking bullshit game. I might have said that because I curse at my games very often. But I never really felt like that was the truth. Like, I was never really angry at the game in these sections. There's some sections in that game where we can consider that the Emmys, of course. But the general traversal, the general movement in that game is fucking amazing. And then you get the puzzles, you get the actual fights against the bosses and stuff like that. The parry is really well integrated, like how it's working. It's so strong. Like, better get used to using that thing constantly, because without it, you're fucking dead. Also, it's not as fun without it. But it's so much more. It's so well integrated. It's and all the movements options that you have, all the special weapons that you get, and it's mixing things up. You don't get the morph ball until half of the game is done.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
This is crazy, and it's just some of the hubs are maybe not as interesting in terms of how they look. It's all got a very machinery feel to it. There's one area that's more bioorganic than the others, but it's still there's still some machine structures in that as well. And that's maybe some of the other Metroid games are a bit more varied in that regard. So that would be something I would say is not as good in this. And also, one of the big things in this is, which is kind of an extension of what they did in Metroid Fusion, where you're hunted by this parasite copy of Samus, is you have these areas where like these death bots that are hunting you, and you have to find a way to disable them. And these can become really shitty because it's one hit death. Like, once they find you, you're dead. It's not as frustrating because there's not like in Dark Souls or whatever, where you then have to walk a million miles until you get back to them. You're immediately usually in front of where they get activated. You can try again immediately, and that helps a lot. But still, these sections can be kind of grating and stressful. And I mean, they're intended to be, but also that's not necessarily a gameplay aspect I would associate with the Metroid experience, if you know what I mean. That's not Metroid for me is exploring. It's the classic Metroidvania thing, of course. That's why it's in the name. Search action in the Japanese term. You won't get further at a specific point in the game. Okay, then you turn around and look at a different place and try to get a new upgrade, and then you return later to that point and get farther there. And it's all about exploration. It's about atmosphere, you being alone in this big world and trying to, get your bearings or whatever, and trying to find your way out of it, and, solving a mystery, and there's a story on the side and whatever. And the X Parasite and this adds like this kind of pressure to it, and that's also very punishing to a certain extent. And I don't necessarily like that, but also after getting a hang of how to deal with them, and you get some, additional tools later that help you kind of counter the enemies more easily. But if there was some critique about this game, I would have to dish out. It would be the Emma sections, and it would be not all of the hubs being varied enough and interesting looking enough when compared to other Metroid games. Aside from that, I got nothing to complain about the game. How did you feel about it? What grinded your gears?
I mean, probably a skill issue, but man, some of the bosses in this game are like
tough. They're
brutal.
Tough. Yeah, they're really brutal. Like some of them really dismantled me, but also again, same experience as I had with the traversal puzzles.
I don't remember how many tries it took me to beat what was it called? Experiment Z57.
Oh, the one where you are in the square room and it has these, I don't know.
It's got all the
bullet hell shit.
It's kind of jumping around. It has like the mouth beam that aims at you.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. That is probably the tough. Aside from the final boss, that is the toughest boss in the game. But again, there's a lot of stuff you can do to counter certain attacks of it, and once you know what to do, when to do, it's just like I felt like all of these bosses again. Same with Kraid, who is also a bit finicky at certain parts with the platform jumping and everything. But I feel like most of the time, if I fucked up, it was my fault, and it rarely I felt like it was the game's problem with that. Just like with the traversal puzzles, where I didn't get that feeling at all on the bosses, very rarely, where it was like, this pattern was bullshit, right? This didn't have to come one after another. But aside from that, I still had so much fun, and a lot of those where it's like when I finished them, I got this right. So you just this feeling of relief, but also success, which only a really good boss fight can give you, in my opinion. And I think that game was full of them. Last but definitely not least, the final boss. And
I was smashing my face up against the final boss, and I just could not figure it out. I ended up having to read a guide on how to do, because I was just like, I don't understand what I'm doing here. So that one was a little bit for me.
Okay, that's a shame. But I liked it. I don't know if I had to look something up. I probably in the beginning I was like, what's going on here? How do I counter this? But I think I figured it out at some point, and that fight is so goddamn tight, and it's so exciting. There's so many cool sequences, and considering Metroid games live off their atmosphere. They don't necessarily live off their story. The one thing where the game where they tried to go really story heavy, which was Other M, like completely backfired because the writing wasn't there. So I was worried about this, of course. But I really liked the story in this. I really liked how they really picked up the story from Fusion, technically, and everything that came before it, kinda, with the baby and everything. And, Samus being infested by Metroid spores or whatever. And then, doing this nice twist at the end with Adam. And, the real identity of the final boss and everything, and then you got this really climactic fight against him, and Samus unlocking her true power, and I think I was just literally on my feet yelling, "Let's fucking go!" because it was so good. Like the whole final fight, and just when you just have the escape sequence and you just have this giant beam in front of you and just annihilate everything. It felt so good. I feel that game was really good at rewarding you for beating a really tough challenge. It was definitely the peak of that, where you felt like the ultimate badass in your weird fucking hybrid Metroid Green Halo suit or whatever, or Doom Slayer suit probably is more appropriate, and definitely feels like that.
Now that you say it,
it was it definitely had Doom Slayer crossed with Metroid vibes, and Sam is just fucking going all out when she, when she unleashes her power, just yelling at the final boss, and she's so awesome in this. This is like the complete opposite of what they did with her in Other M, where she's like this scared little flower, and which doesn't match her character at all. And in this, she's just amazing at the final battle. It's just so rewarding, or for me it was anyway. And it was so good and it was so fun. I loved it. I thought the game got better and better and better the further it progressed and the more movement options you got. And the story was surprisingly cool in how it wrapped up, especially if you consider this now probably being the end to the mainline Metroid series. We're still going to get Prime 4, but that's kind of an alternate universe thing at this point.
Yeah.
So I thought Dread was fantastic. So, some things that probably could have gone better, I guess, but they were so marginal for me. I didn't mind. What was your overall general feel about this? You said you wouldn't rank it as high. Where would you rank it anyway?
Oh, like I said, my two favorites are probably Zero Mission and Super. Let me look at a list of the games again. Because I don't feel like it's right to put Prime or Other M alongside the 2D ones. But I mean, it's also within the same franchise, so
doesn't matter.
That's true. Yeah, I'd say it's maybe top 3, top 5. Because I also really like Prime. I really like Prime 3 a lot too. I know it's a stupid motion control gimmick, but there were these doors in Prime 3 where you had to actually reach out with the Wii remote.
I remember.
It's like
Turn
you
around.
were grabbing and turning the switch and pulling or pushing. And I was just like, okay, this is like nothing, but it makes it feel like you're actually doing the thing.
Yes.
So I think this is really cool.
Yeah. Well implemented, while not substantial, well implemented motion controls.
So, and there's those. Fingers crossed that they don't fumble Prime 4, because Prime 2, I was sort of like,
Yeah, let's see. I mean, the first trailer looked a bit, all right. Glad to see this thing still exists and will come out. But we'll see how it actually plays. I mean, before that, I probably would need to play through the first 3 Prime games. Oh boy.
You haven't?
I mean, again, I played through all of them, but it's been ages.
Replay.
Yeah, I played through them when they came out, but I haven't fully played through 1, 2, and 3 in ages. And so far, they've only released a remake of 1. I was expecting them to release 2 and 3 as a lead up to 4, like the remasters of them, but they have not.
I hope they do. I hope they do.
I mean, it's probably not much time left, right? Prime 4 is supposed to come out this year, right?
I mean, even if they don't do it before, just at some point.
Yes, of course. No, but that's exactly what I mean. It would make sense for people who haven't played any of the Prime games to get remasters of 1, 2, 3 before 4 comes out. But maybe just the timeline didn't work out for that. I don't know. But
that's possible.
Yeah. For me, I would probably put Dread up there with Super Metroid, though Super Metroid is more of a nostalgia thing. Like I said, some of the movement in that game is frustrating to me, but just the game looks so good and sounds so good, and the atmosphere is there, and it's a classic for a reason, and everyone loves it, and but
like your single frame timing on your wall jumps.
But just in terms of just playing the game, I had a lot of fun with the Dread, maybe more fun than Super Metroid at certain points. And aside from that, I don't even know how I would. Maybe we make top 10 Metroid games or whatever ranking at some point, but right now I wouldn't sure where to rank it. But it's definitely very high, like, and the rest somewhere below that. Other M at the very bottom, probably.
I mean, I like Other M. I think it's great from a gameplay standpoint.
Yes, the gameplay is fun, but the story is so shit. I mean, eventually I might replay it. Maybe it's a bit better if I play it in Japanese. I don't know, because it got that anime feel to it that the English version just wasn't able to, I don't know, convey. We'll see. Maybe that makes it better. Maybe that makes it worse. I'm in no rush to find out, though.
Well, you can also skip cutscenes, so hey.
Yeah, well, there's that. All right, John, anything more?
Not at the moment. Why don't you talk for a while?
Yes. I mean, I have, just. But, of course, I didn't play any of the games you mentioned before just now, and some of them not at all. But I have been playing some games. More than I will talk about now, but we don't want this podcast to be 4 hours or something like that. So I have limited myself to 4. One of the things I've been meaning to get for ages is the Nier series. The most prominent one being Nier Automata, and the previous game of that being Nier Replicant, which I played for the PS4. And this is my first contact with that game. It came out on the PS3 and Xbox 360. I played neither of these two versions, which were different. They changed the look of the main character. They changed the story around a bit, made the little girl that you do everything for, like, that is your life's mission, making in the Western version with the ugly, big, bulky protagonist, they made her his daughter, while in the Japanese version, which now we got as a PS4 remaster, remake, whatever, she was his sister. And so I never played the Gestalt version, only the Replicant version. And the PS4 version also has an additional DLC thing. I don't know if that was available in the PS3 version, which adds another ending on top of the game, which apparently up to that point only was available in radio drama form, some novel thing. I don't know, but it was supposed to be the actual ending of the original game, but the budget wasn't there, so they couldn't implement it.
I know there was DLC on the 360 and PS3 version, but I don't remember if it had any story to it or if it was just...
Yeah, but as a sense...
trying to look it up now.
So yeah, these two are the brainchild of Yoko Taro, pretty infamous at this point, Storysmith, that game director, whatever, and who before that did the Drakengard games, right? I don't know what else. And
Yoko Taro has had his hands in a lot of things. So.
Yes. So, but those I am familiar with, or at least I've heard about. I don't know about the rest. Probably know when I hear them, but I knew he was involved in that. And recently, with Nier Automata, the sequel to Replicant, got wide acclaim because everyone loved Nier Automata, which is the game I'm playing right now. Still, I'm not through that. I've got like 3 endings at this point. Or 2? Wait, how many did I get? 2, I think. Yes, I think I'm in my in the 3rd run now. And well, I'll talk about that game once I finish it. But yeah, so Nier Replicant, played that for the first time. It is definitely a PS3 era, just like you said with Final Fantasy Legend, that being a 90s Game Boy game. Nier Replicant is definitely a PS3 mid-tier RPG. And that means a lot of things. That means like there is technically an open world, but it's not really that big. There's not a lot of things happening. It means the quest design for the side quests is absolute trash in a lot of aspects. Like they're like the worst fetch quest that you can imagine, that you can cook up in your brain for a JRPG, they are in there. Like, the worst.
Go from one end of the map and all the way back, because we said so.
Yes, also, please don't dash or roll or jump, and don't get attacked by enemies. If you get hit once, you break the thing, and you fuck up the quest. Stuff like that. And, well, it's about this it's kind of a post-apocalyptic setting, but not in the classic sense. Still feels like a world that is not completely in shambles. Yes, there are relics from the past and stuff like that, and broken buildings and whatever, but you got like more a small village community or several village communities, and everything feels kind of normal outside of a lot of people. Just there being this plague in this world that's kind of killing a lot of people, and also there being these monsters. I forgot what they were called in the original. Not shapeless.
Shades, I think.
Shades, yes. And what's up with those and everything? And you play this young man who's trying to protect his sick sister, who apparently is afflicted by that sickness that is kind of eventually killing everyone. And then stuff unravels from there as he learns more and more about the world. Though technically he doesn't learn shit because he's an idiot. Like a main character is really like this narrow-minded, I'll do everything for my sister and I really don't care about anything else, which is intended because that's also what the story kind of plays into in terms of there's like this little tease at the very beginning of the game, and you play that and then the scenario completely switches and you get a big time skip into the future, and then you're wondering what the fuck happened and how does that relate to the beginning of the game? Like, what is even going on here? And then the game slowly but surely fills you in on that. And also one very integral part to this game and also Nier Automata is you have multiple endings. So to get the full story of the game, you have to play through the game multiple times. I think Nier Replicant all in all had 5 main story endings. I think that's also 5 endings in general. Nier Automata has a lot more, but a lot of those are just joke endings, where you do some unexpected shit, and then the game is like, haha, here, special ending, your character is now dead or whatever, and that's a joke ending. Or they just didn't fulfill their mission because they were interested in looking at flowers or what, some shit.
9S wandered off course and was lost forever in the end.
Exactly. So they had a bit more fun with that in Automata, and Replicant's only 5 endings, and all of these are main story related. So you play through the game one time, then you play it through a second time, and you get a different perspective on this. You get a few additional cutscenes. You also don't play the entire game through in the second run. You start from the middle, and you spend less and less time on each playthrough actually playing through the game, because now you have enough money, you have all your weapons already powered up, you don't need to do the side quests anymore because you've already technically done them, so why do them again? So it's not like you have to play through the entire game multiple times, which would be crazy. But you spend still significant time playing a lot of the same parts of the game again. And that can become a bit tiresome. I understand why that is there. It's like a way to artificially extend the playing time of that game. Like kind of before we had live service games, this is a way to do it, right? Have replay value by just adding more story into it. You don't get the full story unless you play through the game multiple times. And also they incorporate that in a way where it's like, hey, you play through the game one time, you have this very strict perspective from the young boy. His name isn't really Nier, or it wasn't intended to be, but they had to call him something in, the additional media, so at some point it became Nier. But initially, Yoko Taro intended for him to be a nameless protagonist. So let's just go with that. And the protagonist is like I said, very narrow-minded. I'm going to protect my sister, and the shades are bad, and I need to kill them all. And then, the more you get that run through, and then you get the next run through. John, on what ending are you in Replicant anyway? I know you started it. Don't want to spoil stuff for you.
I mean, it's however old game it is at this point, but I had gotten quite literally to the halfway mark of the game, so.
Of the first run? Or
yes.
Okay.
Like right at the division where you grow up.
Yes. Okay. Well, then I need to be careful of what I say. As you can imagine, once you have your first playthrough done, you get a kind of a perspective shift. Not as dramatic as in Nier Automata, where you play a completely different character, but some moments get extended. You get to from a perspective from some other characters on certain events and stuff like that. And that also shifts your perspective on who is good, who is evil, why, who is doing what and why, and so on. Some of those you could already make assumptions on your first playthrough. But those get, much more concrete in the subsequent playthroughs. And then it goes on from that, and you learn more and more about the story, about the background, how all of this came to be, and what the reason for this is, what is Project Gestalt, what is all of this, and so on. So that's how the game progresses, and then by the end, once you play through the fifth time and get the fifth and final ending, you have the full game, technically. Which is funny, because if you don't get the fifth ending in the original version, then holy I would have been so fucking frustrated. Because the fourth ending is an absolute downer ending. Like, it is absolute, like, super depressing. Which is kind of the feeling of this game and Automata in general, in my opinion. This is probably what Yoko Taro is going for. It's like, I don't want to call it tragedy porn, but it is definitely going there in some place. It's to a point where it becomes kind of unintentionally funny. Like, there are these moments where it's like, okay, this is so tragic and sad, and then this happens multiple times, one after another, that it loses some of its impact. Or here's the side story of this this old man who is asking you to find his dog because it wandered off. Oh, guess what? The dog is dead. Oh, guess what? Now you return to the old man and now he died as well. And you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, game. Oh, remember, here's this couple who is always like arguing. Would be sad if something happened to one of them after they finally see eye to eye again, wouldn't it? And this happens constantly in this game. The game is so interested in kicking you in the balls over and over and over again. And I feel like, even as someone who really liked the Last of Us games, who are very much going for a holy shit, all of this feels so bad thing, and intentionally so. They're trying to do something with that and make this the aspect of the gameplay also work together with the story and trying to evoke a specific emotion inside of you. And I think the Nier games are doing the same for the sake of having a discussion about certain topics and certain themes. So I appreciate that. The problem is, if you go about this so fucking ham-fisted and you just jamming it in there over and over again, it loses some of its impact and just becomes comedic. And Nier Replicant has a real problem with that. Nier Automata partially as well, and we'll talk about that once I'm finished with that game. I feel it's more relevant in Nier Replicant because it's just a bummer after a bummer after a bummer. And it's like, okay, all right, I get it. At some point I was just like, doing the jerk off motion with my hand. Once they going into another sad diatribe about the character's backstory, it's like, okay, let's try. I was making a game out of that. Okay, what could have been the worst thing that could have happened to this character before we met him? And like 50% of the times I was right. And also what happened to them after that and so on. I was like, okay, all right. And also the reveals of what is up with the shades and everything. Some of that stuff is just so, okay, I get what you were trying to do with this, but all of this at some point becomes so predictable to a certain degree, and also it's like you just expect to be kicked in the balls again, that it's neither surprising nor really impactful. It just becomes funny. Again, not all of it, some parts where they just go completely overboard with this, where it's like, oh, here comes that sad music that you have heard 20 times at this point, because now this is a very sad moment again. That doesn't feel ham-fisted at all. And I feel like at certain moments, Nier Replicant really was hammering that down and was just going too far with it. I think I still like the story, the general story of it. I think the biggest problem, aside from the, ham-fisted moments I was just mentioning, was just the repetitiveness of it at some moment. because some parts of this game you literally just play 5 times, and some of these are very long parts, very long stretches of just fighting, and the fighting system in this game is not that great. Like,
it's improved from the original release,
so I've heard.
but it's still.
That's why I don't want to play the original ever. Like, there's some fun thing in there. You have evades, you have counters, you have stuff like that. You have weapons that do different things. Like the whole system with the armor, you having to use a very heavy weapon to break the armor of effectively of enemies. That's cool. You could have also done more with that. It's like, yeah, that's it. That's what you do. You have your magic system, which is also cool. But again, it kind of always comes down to you just hammering down, like hitting the characters, and it feeling a bit sluggish, and just not that varied at all. Like, it feels very samey no matter what you do, and that can grind on you if you have to play through the game one time. If you have to play through some parts of that game 5 times, and especially the final stretch of the game, like the final dungeon, you have to play through from beginning to end 5 times. And there are some battles in that where you're like, ugh, again this, and again that. It gets, again, less problematic the further you go on, because your weapons become super strong and you get faster and faster through those fights because you become incredibly overpowered the more you level your weapons up. But still, it's like, again, this fight, again, this part. So that was a problem. And I feel like Nier Automata doesn't necessarily have that problem. Again, we'll get to that once I play that, because you play with completely different characters. And
there's only a handful of parts in Automata that they force you to replay in their entirety. After that, it's up to you, because after you play through a certain chunk of the game, you unlock a chapter select if you want to go back and replay certain parts. And to grind out weapon upgrades, yeah, you have to do a little bit of that. Or, if you missed a certain side quest, yes. But, there isn't, like, to the extent what you're saying with Replicant.
Yes. So Replicant, very mixed experience for me, just to end this giant teardown. I like parts of the story, not all of them, because, like I said, especially in the side quests and some of the main story beats, it's just tried to be the ultimate tearjerker and just went so far into that direction that it became comedic to a certain degree, at least in my opinion. There's some really strong stuff, especially the stuff with Kain. Really cool. Like, first cool character, got a really foul mouth on her. And really just a fun character. And, you got Emil, who's also really fun. And he returns in Nier Automata. Not really as a playable character or an integral part, but he's in there as a nice little cameo. And the characters itself are fun, aside from the main character, who is an idiot, like I said. But he's a caring idiot. He cares for his sister. But, he's, like I said, very narrow-minded and doesn't see the whole picture. And again, that's part of the point. That's the story Yoko Taro is trying to tell about, people being narrow-minded, and also, just in general trying to have this discussion, this somewhat philosophical discussion about humanity, its purpose, and what it's doing and how it's harming itself and so on. And Nier Automata is doing the same thing. It's kind of trying to grapple with the same themes, in some parts more effectively, definitely, and also being benefited by much more fun gameplay. But it's still an okay game in my opinion. Definitely suffers from being an old ass PS3 game still from its core and some of its game mechanics, and the budget just not being there in certain parts. A lot of stretches of the game, which is thankfully barely in Nier Automata, are just visual novels. You just read stories in that game like you do in Lost Odyssey. And, all of this, I'm like, hey, this is pretty decent. And some of it even cool. I wish I could have played that instead of reading it. And
I get it.
I get that moment several times, feeling, and especially when it came to a story about, or the origin story of Kain. I really wanted to play her, that part of her story, and you just get to read it, which is a bit
I think it worked a little better in Lost Odyssey just because they were meant to be more flashbacky,
Yes, also it's
you know.
not like fight really fights that happening in that, and yeah,
It's a lot more introspective
yeah,
in comparison.
yes, but it also I think was too much for me in that game too. But
I
that's
don't
a
know,
me problem.
actually, I don't know if I ever actually read through all of A Thousand Years of Dreams, but I would not be opposed to starting up the game and suffering through the tears to read through all of them.
Yeah, I mean, well, you will go through tears in your replicant, let me tell you, because that's what the game wants you to do, and wants you to feel. And like I said, I don't mind sad games. I think Last of Us, the two Last of Us games are fucking stellar. I feel like there needs to be a balance, and there needs to be a specific purpose, and the storytelling needs to be there. And your replicant, just due to the repetitiveness and that grinding against the story doing the same shtick over and over and over again, just with different characters, and you being at some point very able to predict what is going to happen because you just have to go for what the saddest outcome would be. So that's the main problem, I would say. And I am having much more fun with Nier Automata, even though it takes me much longer to get through them. It's also a bigger game, but the gameplay is just more fun and everything. But some of those things are also there, or the things that I had a problem with in Nier Replicant are also in Nier Automata. But yeah, that's it for Nier Replicant. I enjoyed some parts of it very much, other parts not so much. So it was a very mixed experience for me. And we'll see what I feel about Nier Automata at the end, probably much more positive. But to counter, also that's not supposed to keep you from actually playing through Nier Replicant, John. Maybe you will have a completely different stance on it than I do at some point.
I just need to sit down and do it.
Yes.
Is the problem.
And to everyone who, I mean, it's still worth checking that game out, just as a time capsule also as well, I think. And if you like, and the atmosphere is great. I forgot to mention that the soundtrack is fucking amazing of that game. Even though I was making fun of the sad song, but I like that song. I think that song is fantastic. It was just funny hearing it like 20 times every time there was like a sad thing happening. It was like, okay, sad music drop, needle drop. But I love the soundtrack. I thought the first time I go into the open field area that you get, and then the overworld music hits. Dieses dim da 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 dim da 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 dim dim da, right? You know what I mean, John. It's so good. It's such a great soundtrack, and I loved it. I love the cozy, melancholic feeling of it, which is what a lot of the atmosphere in that game is. This cozy melancholy, and I like that in general. So it's got a lot of good aspects, but also some, in my opinion, tried and bad ones. But again, my opinion. Talked about this one long enough. Let's talk about a couple of quick ones, because to counter the feeling of repetition from the different Nier Replicant playthroughs, I just was like, okay, between each run through of the different endings, why not play a small game that I can, finish pretty quickly, and then I can play the next part of Nier Replicant, then I can play another small game, then I can play the next part of Nier Replicant, and so on. So I played through 3 jump and runs, platformers. And the first one is Batboy. Probably not a game many people have heard about. Probably none of the ones I'm going to mention. Which was developed by Sanae Games, which is a pretty new developer. Haven't done that much. I think the only other one is Super Samiro, which I've not played. It was a Kickstarter game. I backed it. Finally, physical copy arrived for me, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was a super fun game. It's a Mega Man-like, or even closer to Shovel Knight, in my opinion, because the game mechanics kind of work the same way. You have a bat instead of a shovel, but you hit the characters, you hit objects against the characters, you can propel off enemies with your bat, which you can also do with your shovel. And Shovel Knight, it's very close to that. The overworld is, in the way you move around it, like has a very Super Mario Brothers 3 Shovel Knight-ish map feeling to it. and you unlock more and more once you beat more and more bosses and so on. And it's just a really fun 2D platformer. Great look. Like, it's really nice pixel graphic. The gameplay is super tight. There's some moments where it doesn't play as well, or it's a bit finicky in certain parts, but it's just the mechanics are super fun. The special weapons are super fun, like the abilities that you get. And the characters are fun. Like, it's more tongue-in-cheek game. It's not taking itself seriously at all. Because the character is a baseball guy who hung out with all of his friends to fight evil people. But they were basically like their own Super Sentai team or whatever. Like they were they created their own superheroes team, and all his team, the team members have a sports gimmick. And then, as things must come, all of them get kidnapped by an evil alien and get turned against Batboy, and he has to save them, free them. So in each little level, you fight. That level is themed after that specific sport, and you have to battle the one person. So maybe a guy who plays soccer, maybe a guy who plays American football, a swimming person, whatever. And yeah, so there are a bunch of different characters in there with a little gimmick, and the worlds have that gimmick as well. And it's super fun and very varied. And the soundtrack is fantastic. And it just plays really well. And it's a very breezy game. I loved it. I thought it was great. I can recommend it wholeheartedly if you like your Mega Man games, your Shovel Knights, your whatever, your DuckTales, I don't know, classic 2D platformers. You really can't go wrong with Batboy. I would still say Shovel Knight is a bit better, but it's close. Really, really fun game. Enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I tried out the demo for it. Just haven't gotten around to buying it, but it seemed like a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Like, really, really fun stuff. Definitely recommend that one. The next one is maybe a bit more of an acquired taste for like people who played the original of that particular game, and it's Shadow of the Ninja Reborn, which was developed by Tango Project, which is kinda this project of old Natsume guys who do like remasters of old Natsume games. Some of them are still the original guys from that time when the originals of those games came out. Like on the remaster or on Shadow of the Ninja Reborn, the original Shadow of the Ninja came out for the NES. You get still the same composer and the same artists, but they were back with Natsume back in the days, and now they are Tango Project and doing just cool remasters of the old game. Like in recent time, they have done Wild Guns Reloaded, the Ninja Savers, Return of the Warriors, so Ninja Warriors or Ninja Warriors again, a remake of that, Pocky and Rocky Reshrined, and Shadow of the Ninja Reborn. All of these are fun games, tough as nails though, as was the thing back in the day on the NES and with the old Natsume games. All of these were very hard games, and that's the same case for Shadow of the Ninja. It was super hard back on the NES, and I loved it. It was this weird fringe game, kind of Ninja Gaiden clone, but also did a bit its own thing. But I love the soundtrack of it. I love the style of it, and they gave it a complete graphical overhaul, just like with their other stuff. Incredibly beautifully hand-drawn sprites. Especially Ninja Savers looked fucking stellar when compared to the original, and the same for Shadow of the Ninja. They went with a bit of a different art style this time than with the one in the original. It was just not just an upgrade, but a complete overhaul in terms of style of the enemies, of your main characters. Went a bit more into a 90s anime style, while the original game felt more like an 80s anime style, and I like the 80s style better. New one is a bit too colorful in certain parts. If you like the old game, if you only know the new one, you don't care probably. But it's a bit too colorful, a bit too, I don't know, bouncy, which kind of goes against the content of the game, which is pretty fucking tough and and kind of dark in a way, just in terms of how the world is structured, how the world looks and everything, or what the world is supposed to be, because it's like this is a city taken over by this evil emperor guy and whatever. But I still think it's a beautiful game. It's beautiful to look at, even though the style is not necessarily the one that I wanted. But I like that game. That game wants you to commit. Like, that game wants you to just go in there, don't hesitate. If you wait too long, you're fucked. Also, just prepare to play some parts of the stages over and over again, because it's just one of those super tough platforms. It's got great movement. It's not as great as telling you what your character can actually do and how it works. The weirdest thing is, if you play through the normal story mode or arcade mode, you have to actually die and then exit the stage, I think. If you just exit the stage while you play the game, like if you go to your select screen and then exit the stage, I think it doesn't save it. And you start from the last place you died, actually, which could be one stage ago, 2 stages ago. It's this really weird decision, and please keep that in mind. Like, if you ever play this, because that kind of super frustrated me, because I had already beaten stage 2, and then I was like, hey, I'm at stage 3 now, and I made some mistake. I don't even know exactly anymore how it works, but I did something wrong. I did just exit it normally because I assumed it auto-saved, but it doesn't. It only auto-saves when you die. I think that's how it works. And then I was picking up the game again the other day, and then I was just at stage 2 again instead of being in stage 3. And I was like, what is going on here? Why am I here? I already beat this stage. Super weird things. I don't know why they did that. But aside from that, from these weird things that are in there, it's a fun game. There's some decisions when it comes to your sub-weapons, because in the original game, you technically only were wielding one weapon at a time. Which you were picking up in the level. You could wield a sword, you could wield like a scythe on the end of a chain, which had a bit more range. You could pick up shurikens, and that gave you a limited number of shurikens that you can throw. And if you collected multiple versions of the same weapon, you upgraded that weapon. So your sword would get a projectile, for example. Your scythe would become longer. And I think the shurikens were actually one of the few additional weapons that you could have. In this, the weapon system behaves completely differently. You always have your sword, you always have the scythe, so immediately your attack options are multiplied, and the game accounts for that. So you, on a lot of bosses, in a lot of parts of the stages, you have to make use of both of these weapons. You need to make use of both your long distance weapon, you need to make use of your short distance weapon because of the attack behavior of the enemies. And then you got a wide load of additional sub weapons you pick up, like a big gun, a firework cannon or whatever, shurikens, of course, again, and some other stuff, different swords, like this weird giant club that does a lot of damage, and of course health pickups and stuff like that, which would be fun. The problem is how you switch to those weapons. You basically have to stand still, hold a shoulder button, and then select that weapon. You can't just select it with L and R buttons and then use a button for that special weapon. You don't have a special weapon button. It's you switch it, and it replaces your main weapon at that point. So you have to make a decision at what point you want to switch to a special weapon and use this, because if you do that at the wrong time, you might get hit or you might die. So I think it's a very deliberate choice of you being aware of your situation and, doing like okay, can I do this now? Is it safe, or should I do it? Should I save this weapon for now? Maybe later I can switch because I'm in a situation where I need to be moving constantly. And I think that was intentional. That doesn't make it less frustrating, because in certain parts you just want to quickly switch to a good sub-weapon, and if you do that at the wrong time, you get hit or you die, like I said. So it can be a very tough and demanding game in that regard. It was still fun. I liked it, but it's definitely one of the hardest 2D platformers I played in recent time. And since I like that genre, that is saying a lot. So be aware of that. Again, fun game, fun throwback game, and it looks stellar. So from the graphical standpoint alone, I think it's worth checking it out. Because all of the Tengu games, Tengu Project games are, I think, and they're worth. It's worth checking all of them out for the soundtrack. Like I said, original composer got to do a remix of the original soundtrack for this, and the remix is great. So same for all the other stuff. Like I said, if you want to go for one other thing, maybe like I said, Ninja Saviors. It's really good side scroll beat 'em up. But also all the other ones they did are fantastic. So yes, really enjoyed Shadow of the Ninja Reborn, with a caveat: it's tough as nails and can be pretty frustrating in certain parts. Some of the you can cling to ceilings, for example, and the way that works and how you switch between areas and stuff like that can feel sometimes a bit finicky if you're in a stressful situation. And then if the character doesn't do what you want him to do or her to do, because you have two characters to choose from, then that can be frustrating. It's like, God damn it. So yeah, be aware of that. But still, had a lot of fun with it. And was a good break between Nier playthroughs. The last one of these little short ones I played was Contra, Operation Galuga, or Galuga, which is the newest Contra game, I guess. After we haven't had one for a while, we don't talk about the one with the weird twin-stick shooter 4-player thing that was absolute trash. But
yeah, that sure was.
Yeah, again, another throwback game to the NES. It's a classic 2D Contra side-scroll run-and-gun game, like those games were. And it's kind of a remake of the first one. You got your two main characters that you had forever, Bill Reiser and Lensbean, and then a bunch of other characters, new ones that come into play here. And you play through a bunch of levels, get the different weapons, your spread shots, your machine guns, your lasers, or whatever, and then just like in the Super Nintendo games, the Alien Wars or whatever, you just gun yourself to a bunch of levels. Some of these bosses that you encounter will definitely be familiar to you if you played the original games. And you can do that multiple times. There's like an arcade mode, but there's also a story mode technically where you can gain points and upgrade your weapons, which is fun, and get different buffs or boons. For example, all your weapons have levels, 2 levels. If you, just like in the original Shadow of the Ninja, if you collect the same weapon twice in the same slot, you also have 2 slots for each weapon, that weapon gets upgraded and is stronger. So, do you want to collect a different weapon, or would you rather keep this weapon because you already got this and can maybe upgrade it if the next pod drops that specific weapon? So it got a bit of strategy involved in there, and you can also, put then a boon on yourself where it's like that you don't, if you get hit, you lose the level up. So you can turn that off, or you can enable you to immediately get the level 2 version of the weapon if you pick it up, which is one I chose, where it's like, okay, that's amazing. I definitely want that. You can only pick 2 upgrades, where it's like, okay, I think I picked the weapon and 1 additional life. I think that was it. Or not lose the weapon when I get hit or something, like, I don't remember. But there are a bunch of different upgrades you can choose. And yeah, it's fun. It's Contra. Like, it's just a 2.5D Contra game. It definitely looks like a budget game. Like, it's done by Way Forward, and they know what they're doing. It's great. But some of their games look better. Some of them look not as good. I feel like this is one of the games that looks a bit like one of their cheaper games. Like, it's not one of their mainline, full power, good-looking games like the Shantae series. That's their main thing, I guess. And the DuckTales remaster that also looked really good. This looks a bit cheaper, but still got some great moments in it, especially in the boss fights and everything. Got a lot of bullshit in it too, just like all Contra games. There's some moments in there where like, what the fuck? Some stages are ridiculously long, while others are ridiculously short. It's a bit uneven in that regard. And some of the save points are as well, where it's like, okay, how have I not reached the middle of the stage yet? Why do I have to start at the beginning again? Then you have some auto-scrollers, and in those especially, it can become very frustrating if you pick up a weapon by accident because the screen moves so fast. Like, shoot a weapon pod, the special weapon gets dropped on the floor, and if you don't jump fast enough, suddenly you have a shitty weapon that you don't want. And it's a typical Contra problem, I guess. The old games had that issue as well. But, maybe there were some ways to get around this. And they didn't do that. They wanted to give you the original experience, which I guess is fine. But, yeah. Aside from that, fun game. Fun little run game. I can recommend it. If you like Contra, if you like the Contra games, you will probably like this one. So,
yes. The last one I played, I think, was Hardcore Uprising. So
yes, I never finished that, but I liked what I played. But yeah, this one is
that game was extremely difficult.
Yes,
I can't believe I actually finished it.
I would say this one is easier, but also doesn't look as good because it's not done by Arceus with looking like a Guilty Gear 2D scrolling shoot 'em up. But yeah, check it out. It's fun. John, you had some more on the games docket here.
Yeah, I just kind of ran through some quick demos because the next fest is going on Steam, and usually I just check out stuff from my wish list. Because otherwise, if I took my time to go through the full breadth of all the demos on the next fest, I'd probably, disappear for a month. So I went and checked out, first off, Wanderstop, which is this game about this girl, Alta. She's like this sword master, and she's going off into the woods to train with this Master Winters, I believe her name is. But she's collapses in the woods, and she can't lift her sword, and she gets saved by this big guy named Boro. Boro, he runs a tea shop out in, this clearing. And he's like, well, maybe if you stick around here and just learn to make some tea, you'll be able to relax yourself and then get back to, what you need to do. And Alta is very resistant to that. And she runs back into the woods and collapses again. And she sort of is like, very reluctantly, it's like, okay, I guess I'll learn how to do this thing that you're trying to make me do. And it's cute, but the demo doesn't really give you a chance to really see what the game is all about. It teaches you the mechanics of some of the mechanics. I assume this is only a fraction of it. This is a way you plant the you plant the stuff, you get the tea leaves and the different fruits, and this is how you brew it, and they let you do that once, and the demo's over, and it's like, that's it. Which I got to assume there's a lot more to it than that, but the demo didn't really sell me on it, so I was sort of like, I don't know about this, man. So maybe there'll be more to it. Maybe I'll look back at it again, but for now, I was just sort of like, I think I'm good. After that was a game called Beyond the Ice Palace 2, which I was trying to figure out, well, when did Beyond the Ice Palace 1 release? Because it's not available on any modern play. It was a game from 1988 that released on the Amiga, Amstrad, the Atari ST, the Commodore 64, and the ZX Spectrum. This game has been a sequel in the making for 37 years.
Just like with the sequel to Gimmick we recently got, where it's like, wow, okay, that happened. Yeah. So
this is like a really cool looking pixel art. I don't know if it's trying to be like a Metroidvania or not, because they
Hmm.
have this giant map that you can traverse, but it seems pretty linear, which, that's fine if it's, level to level, but it's also kind of frustratingly slow. Like, you play as this like Dark Lord, whatever, who's, been resurrected from near death, and it's just, okay, that's fine, but the traversal is like,
Hmm.
and you have this like sort of whip sword thing that you can, lash out at enemies with, and then you can use to grapple among stuff. You have like this sort of dash thing that you can use to extend your jumps, but when you're on the ground, it has this weird cooldown, and it's like, I see what they're trying to do, and I respect it, and I think there might be a little bit of sauce to it, but again, it's just it's really slow. Maybe, that was the idea behind it, that it was supposed to feel a bit more deliberate
Hmm.
compared to stuff like modern Metroidvanias. We were going all over the dang place all the time, which, okay, there's a there's a space for that. But I was just sort of like, I don't know. Maybe if there was something a little more to it, but as it stands, not so sure about it.
It's very pretty though. Just looking at screenshots and animations, it's looks really nice.
The pixel art is incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
So I won't take that away from it at all. Like, it's a very striking game.
Hmm.
Uh, the pixel art trend sort of continues on after this, because then I tried out Gal Guardians Servants in the Dark, which is the sequel to the other Gal Guardians game that Inti Creates put out, Demon Purge. That's it. And, it feels snappy and fast. You've got two different characters. You've got a gunner, you got she uses, and the other one uses a sword, and different enemies drop sub weapons, sort of like Castlevania, and you can equip two at a time, and you can do sort of neat combinations with that. So, that's also really neat. It's got, Inti's great pixel art style. So, I enjoyed the first game, so definitely worth taking a look at this one as well. So,
And that is
yes.
somehow related to Galgans.
Yes.
Okay.
Question mark. I don't fully understand it, but because I never played Galgun, but I think it's just because they had some characters that they were borrowing from Galgun.
Okay. Interesting. So kind of like the same as the Yorhane thing in a way.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
But again,
Uh
pretty looking game. Like of course,
yes.
getting Symphony of the Night vibes from this, which is probably intentional.
Oh
But
yeah, for certain.
yeah, definitely also looks like it could be a lot of fun.
Hmm. Next one I tried was a Toho fan game called Sanae Sylphid Breeze, and it's just a Kirby game with a different coat of paint.
Okay.
Sanae is uh, not really a main character, but one of the more prevalent characters across the grander Toho verse, because there's a lot of main games, there's a lot of side like fan games that spun off of it, and she uses her magic to suck up enemies into her sack that she carries around, and some of them you can turn into special powers. And like, I started playing, I was like, wait a minute, there's something about
For
this. And as soon as I understood what was going on, I was like, ah, I see, I
some reason
understand.
I expected a shoot 'em up with that name, but yes, it definitely looks like a Kirby game.
Yes, it definitely has the visual style. A lot of it, the sound effects and music are distinct enough to be like, yes, it's both, but it's not either.
Hmm.
So they are kind of steering clear of the dragon's eye that is Nintendo on that.
Smart choice.
But yeah, it's a cute looking game. It plays really well. Like, it had a couple of demos in there, or
Hmm.
a couple of levels in there, and some mini bosses and whatnot. So yeah, neat. The last one was Fubuki zero in on Holoearth, because Hollow Indie has been putting out some really neat games, and
This is related
ho
to the HoloLive VTuber stuff.
Yes,
Hmm.
and this one is centered around everyone's favorite fox friend Fubuki Shiragami, and she goes around with a sword slicing up spirits, and you meet the other characters, and very Mega Man like, you get their powers, you can switch between them and use their weapons, on and off. You can summon up different spirits to come out and help you during fights, and it's very fast paced. The sprite art is intensely detailed. Like it's a very gorgeous looking game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just looking at it. It's pretty, got great anime sequences in between, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely it's got a lot to it. Like I said, I've been VTuber pilled. So
Hmm.
even though I don't watch a lot of Hollow Live proper, um, a lot of the stuff that's been coming out has been neat. Like ever since Cover Corporation was like, hey, we want to see more games and we will money hat your projects. There's been a lot of stuff that's been coming out, like Idle Showdown. I think the developer was like, oh, we are going to continue to make it be a free game. But there are those out there who are like, yeah, if you're going to give us a little bit of money, we'll go for it. And there's been neat stuff coming out of that, and this is one of the things that's coming out. I don't know, remember when exactly, but soon-ish. It's cool. So, definitely give it a go.
Neat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the bulk of the stuff I checked out on the Next Fest.
Cool. Yeah. Check those out, people. Especially if you like 2D 2D games or pixel art games. Some of these look really pretty. Yeah. That's it for the game section, which was, of course, really packed this time around. Because we packed a lot of it in there. We didn't recently time. I can't promise that it will be as big every time we do this. Some of you will probably be happy to hear that. It's not going to be as many games. But yeah, so, but we still wanted, of course, to do a couple of other sections in this. And the next one, which we haven't really done in the anime podcast in a while, are the news.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a bit of news.
So yeah, I mean, since this is our first episode of Freeze Frames Per Second, we got a lot of news, of course, on our plate. Some of them already a lot older than when we initially intended to record this, but doesn't really matter. It's just stuff to talk about that happened recently and is still happening. So let's talk about that. The first one, the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2.
The worst kept secrets.
Everyone was waiting for it. Everyone was like, when are they finally gonna announce it? Well, they did a Nintendo Direct. No, they didn't do a Direct for it. The Direct is still coming up in April?
In as of recording, a little over a month.
Yes, and definitely, if we do another one of these in next season, we will definitely talk about that one. But yeah, so far we only got the trailer, got a look at what that system looks like, what it can maybe do. We got a look at probably the first game that's coming out with it, which would be Mario Kart 9, as kind of expected. Either that or the next mainline Mario game, a 3D Mario game. I would have expected either, but yeah, Mario Kart 9 seems to be a safe bet to get a lot of people on board initially.
Oh yeah,
because that's still still Nintendo's best-selling Switch game, if I'm not mistaken.
I forget what the attach rate for it is, but I think it's like a really absurdly high.
Yes. So
57.4%.
Yeah.
1 in every 2 Switches has a copy of Mario Kart 8 with it.
Well, that makes sense because it's a great game, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. It looks like a Switch, like a bigger Switch. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing because a lot of people want to use it mobile, so maybe bigger isn't necessarily better. Let's see about that. It's interesting to see how the Joy-Cons are attached, which also gave me immediate anxiety in terms of something being able to break off there. Especially if you have kids, which I don't, but I know people who do, and they should be worried.
Oh, I'm sorry. That 57.4 was the attach rate on the Wii U.
I was about
At
to
its
say.
at its peak, its attach rate on the Switch is 75%.
Great. That's how it's supposed to be.
3 in every 4 Switches.
Yes. So yeah, the Joy-Cons look a bit differently. People, I mean, apparently we will be able to use them as mice,
Yeah, I'm curious about that still.
which might mean we get a new Mario Paint,
Mario Artist?
Mario Artist, something like that. Yeah, could be. Will be really interesting, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Not really to say. I mean, people who watched like every second of this stupid trailer and tried to analyze it. It's like it's just a new Switch with more power. That's what everyone kind of wanted. Like, and then everyone acted disappointed. It's like, what did you expect? Oh, Nintendo is playing it safe. There's not enough innovation. It's like,
What do you want?
what do you actually want? Like, I mean, of course, it's nice for Nintendo to always be like innovating and doing new things, like they did with the DS, with the 3DS, with the Wii, of course. But it also can backfire, like with the Wii U. And now they got like this surefire hit on their hands with the Switch, and it's like everyone liked that thing, everyone bought that thing, and why would you not try to repeat that success? That doesn't mean that it will be successful, like with the Steam Deck and everything, though that is not as, I feel like, hasn't permeated the gamosphere as much as the Switch does or has. So
It kind of set a fire under the whole idea of PC handhelds, though. So, 'cause, I mean, a lot of people have been trying it for so long, and then Valve comes along and says, "Okay, what if we just run, our own operating system? It can run not every game on Steam, but a large chunk of them, and it has for what it is, a decent performance profile." We'll touch on this again in a few minutes, but some of the other ones that have come out have done things better. Some of them have done things a little bit worse. But now there is a choice, and I forget what company it is. There's one company that seems to be putting one out like once a month, and it's like, Jesus Christ. Please slow down.
Yeah. We'll see how this works out. I'm really interested to see the direct, to see what other things there are, what other games we're getting. It's nice that you can play Switch 1 games on the Switch 2. I hope with a bit more power. Probably gotta wait until that's out to play Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yeah, I had been saying for years I want to play Hyrule. Oh, God, what is it called?
Hyrule Warriors.
I have to look at my shelf now to get the name right. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity at something, resembling a playable frame rate. So
yeah. We don't want freeze frames per second in our games, actually. So yeah, of course, this is one of those things. I probably won't have the money for it, but I will buy it as quickly as possible because I've been looking forward to a more powerful new Switch for ages. So using my current one, not right now because I'm playing Nier Automata, but eventually I'll pick it up again, probably to play Skyward Sword HD or something. But yeah, so looking forward to a better, possibly, version of this. And yeah, not much more to say about this right now, but definitely when that direct comes around.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to selling my current Switch because I still have a launch model one, and I think that Wi-Fi antenna is starting to flag a bit. So
I don't have big Joy-Con drift yet, but that might come at any moment. So
I don't feel like I ever ran across that because I think mostly because I didn't really use the Joy-Cons. I mostly used like Pro controllers, and later on I bought these larger, not Joy-Cons. Because I have giant bare hands, so using those teeny tiny Joy-Cons, it's like a one-way trip to Cramp Town. So
yeah, I mean, encountered it a bit recently when I played on mobile, and I was like, oh, okay, my character is moving. Why is it moving? So it's about time. It's been a while. I still have the original release version, like the first iteration of this. Didn't get an OLED version or one of the other later ones. So
I was like, oh, maybe I should just buy an OLED version, and I just kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and now it's like, well, I guess I'm not. I'm just gonna buy it whenever it releases, which, assuming the release date at this point is probably June or July.
We'll see. Looking forward to it. Anyway, the next thing that we have was Sony's Direct, the State of Play, that came at the, I guess, mid of February. Yeah, some interesting stuff in there. Definitely the Sega stuff. Looking forward to that. The new Shinobi game.
Yeah,
looks really good. Maybe the new Sonic racing game will be fun again. I'm pretty sad that it's still not a new Sonic and Sega All-Stars game and only Sonic characters.
But yeah, but you know, it looks like it's going to be like transformed.
Yes,
with the
it looks
different
closer
vehicles.
to Transform than the team racing thing, which nobody really liked. So yeah, it's good that they do that, and a bunch of other stuff that looked interesting. I don't know, what were some of your highlights?
I've been waiting to see more of Hell Is Us because that looks cool.
Yeah.
Kind of out of nowhere, DLC for Lies of P, which is neat.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, I haven't played it, but I guess people really, really like it. So
Yeah, this is still in my backlog. Got it in my
and then it was
shelf.
nice to see Lost Soul Aside finally has a release date after it had been in development since. Because I remember the dev was like, "Oh, I don't like the way Final Fantasy 15 plays." Well, it's been a minute, guy.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see it's going to finally exist. And then there are a couple of other things in there too. Like Mind's Eye looks cool, even if it's probably just going to be just fluff.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it looks like budget GTA, but also maybe the story is interesting enough. We'll see. And of course, the new game by Housemarque.
Yeah, Saros looks neat.
I will not play this because I did not like Returnal at all. That game felt like it was wasting my time, and probably get the same feeling about Saros. I'm glad for Raul Coley, though. He seems to be a big gamer guy, and I'm glad for him that he gets to be the main star of this. So, yeah.
I feel so weird in saying, "Oh, Rahul Kohli is awesome," but I got to know who he was through Funhouse when it still existed. Because he was on there semi-regularly.
Yeah. I think the first thing I watched with him was iZombie. And then, you know, he's in a lot of the Flanagan stuff, which I like a lot. So, yeah, he's cool, apparently. Apparently, he's also a cool person, judging from his posts on Blue Sky and whatever. So, good for the guy.
He and Alana Pierce play off of each other a lot, and they're both really funny.
Yes, they're a good couple. They're really entertaining. So, and they got a very cute dog. Yay for Banjo. So yeah, that bunch of pseudo interesting stuff or interesting stuff on the State of Play. And
glad to see Stellar Blade has a PC version coming finally. Tides of Annihilation look cool. I can't believe they made like a roguelike Dynasty Warriors game.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Sure.
Some of the things in this list were like, okay, sure, why not? And
yeah, I mean, yeah.
So
there was neat stuff all around though.
Some interesting stuff coming from Sony and adjacent developers and whatever in the next time, and we'll probably see more of those in the not too distant future. John, what are some other topics that you brought to the table?
Just this past week was Pokémon Presents, because it was Pokémon Day. The series is now 29 years old. Oh my god. But there were a lot of non-game announcements in there, like I guess Pokemon Concierge is coming back, and that's a cute little mini series. Pokemon Go to Unova. I really wanted my black and white remake so badly. I was coping so hard.
Didn't work.
But the big thing that they talked about was they actually talked about Pokemon Legends ZA. They talked about the starters, that it seems a lot more confined than Legends Arceus. Like it's supposed to be mostly within Lumiose City, which was part of the setting of X and Y. And they're changing how combat works.
Okay.
Which is what I was alluding to earlier. In Legends Arceus, they introduced this mechanic with strong style or swift style attacks where it would either make your attack stronger or faster. And it was kind of like battles were on a timeline reminiscent of like Final Fantasy X is the first example that pops into my head, where you could see the turn order and plan strategically around that. This time, it's like an action RPG. Where you have like your attack buttons and cooldowns and you're having to dodge stuff in real time. And it's kind of, I think, a change that the series has needed because it's been the same thing for so long outside of your weird outliers like Pokemon Rumble and Pokemon Unite, which are like whatever sorts of games that exist on the fringe. I know people love Pokemon Unite, so I'm not going to poop all over it, but I'm also not a MOBA type of guy, so. But this is, I think, genuinely neat to see, but, people have also been memeing over the fact that, wow, guys, the Mega Evolutions for the ZA starters are out there now, and they're just 3 different colors of Charizard.
Great.
I think a lot of people were expecting Piplup to be the water starter this time, and they got, Totodile instead, which is kind of strange, but, sure. All right, Totodile is neat. Like, he's one of my boys. I have gravitated towards water starters a lot throughout the series. So, it's neat to see that they're making a little bit of a change. It's launching later than expected. A lot of people are suspecting November, which would line up with a lot of the main entry launch periods in the times past, but they were radio silent on this game for over a year. So at least it wasn't as long as Platinum was silent on Bayonetta 3, but we all know how that game turned out, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's a shame. But I am cautiously optimistic about ZA, which means I still need to sit down and crank out the rest of Legends Arceus. So I will try and get to that. How long do I have? About 8 months.
That should be doable.
So I think that is manageable. Hey, maybe next time we do this segment, I'll be talking about it again, and I'll have finished the game. So
let's see.
Yeah, that's the big news from Pokemon Presents. The next thing I was wanting to talk about was PC hardware and the absolute state of the NVIDIA 50 series launch. Guys, it's not good. A lot of the NVIDIA lineup this time is way overpriced, and it's not really delivering what it should be. Like, I think it was it the 5070 that was basically like, or the 5070 Ti was basically just a souped up 4070, and the performance difference was like not worth the money. The NVIDIA, in their infinite wisdom, has been making the switch from the standard 2x4 power connector to this 12-volt high power thing, and on 5090s it has been literally melting and destroying the connectors and destroying the graphics cards. That's a real good waste of $2,000 if you can get them for actual MSRP, because people are scalping the heck out of them, and some of the partner product has been approaching $3,000, which is like, that's stupid. You're stupid. in some, if you wanted to look online, like Gamers Nexus again was pointing out that some places are trying to put out these absurdly priced bundles that are like approaching $6,000 and $7,000, and it's like, why? I don't know if it was a joke or not, but a friend of ours posted a picture of one that was like an entire. It has to have been fake. It has to have been a joke, but it was like an entire like kitchen setup with like a fridge and this and that. Oh, and a graphics card for $10,000. So it's like, what do you mean? There's no way that's real. Shut up.
Price can always go up.
Price can always go up. So then AMD comes out just yesterday with like, hey, the 9070 and the XT are going to be $550 and $600, and I'm like, let's talk. So I am all but waiting on the benchmarks at this point, because I'm looking to build a new computer soon-ish.
I just
Intel
built mine,
isn't
so I'm out.
Yeah, Intel isn't doing too well on the CPU side. Like the 13th and 14th generation CPUs were not great. Like the 14th gen CPUs were like literally dying in socket from regular use. And then I forget what they're calling. It's ostensibly the 15th generation, but they're calling it like Core 2 Ultra, I think. And they're not providing the performance they should for the price they're asking. So they've been taking this weird step backwards. But AMD out here is like, yo, check out the 9800X3D, and it's like in its own class. So I'm waiting for news on the 9950X3D, which I think is supposed to launch in the next week and a half. So I'll be waiting for the benchmarks on that too, because I am ready to just go Team Red this time around. I will say though that even though NVIDIA is the top end of the market and their prices are absolutely insane, I'm glad that AMD is out here to give them some competition in the mid-range. And Intel, even though they're not doing great on the CPU front, they're trying with the ARC cards, and they are competent. They're doing decently well. Like they launched in a state with the first generation ones, but the new ones are like, yeah, they're putting in the work to make them worthwhile. So maybe at some point, ARC cards will become like a viable choice, even amongst, the mid-range stuff. But
that would be good. Competition is good for the customer.
Yes. And that's the crux of it, because I couldn't see spending $2,000 on a 5090, especially with the state that they've been in. Like, I definitely overpaid for my 3090, and I get the feeling from the way it acts sometimes that it used to be in a crypto rig. So I'm looking to sell that and upgrade soon. There were about the 9070. I guess there were rumors that there was going to be a 32 gig, a one with a VRAM count of 32 gigabytes at some point, but someone at AMD was like, yeah, that's not happening. Like they shot down that rumor pretty plainly, and it's like, okay,
all right,
sure, the 16 gigabyte SKUs are what they are. But going back to what you were talking about with what we were talking about with Steam Decks and PC handhelds earlier, AMD showed off at CES in January their Z2 lineup of processors, which kind of are like all-in-one things that are good for handhelds. So I guess Lenovo launched one of their SKUs on the Z2 architecture, like using the Z2 Go, because there's 3 different tiers of it, and I guess it works, but it doesn't really have the performance uplift from Z1. So I'm waiting to see, with the other ones, like if Asus comes out and they're like, oh, here's the ROG Ally 2, and it's a decent uplift, I might consider selling my Steam Deck and upgrading. And I would still anyway install SteamOS on it, because it's the better opportunity. It's the better method for running games, on a handheld, because it's just it just works better than Windows. And it's like it is the console handheld interface because it works fine with touch controls and controllers, whereas Windows on a touch screen is like it exists.
I wonder which chip will be in the Switch 2.
I think it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be an NVIDIA chip in the Switch 2s again. But I'm not certain about that. I think there was talks about Samsung having some kind of hand in that. I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's supposed to be the display or if they are heading up the actual internals. But there's still talks between NVIDIA and Samsung. I'm not 100% certain. But then before we get into, I think what will probably be our last segment, apparently Assassin's Creed Shadows just leaked in full.
Oh my god.
Oops.
Really? That's what you get for postponing it all the time.
There's been so much hemming and hawing, and people have been having their opinions about what do you mean a black samurai? Hey, bro, Yasuke existed. Shut up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and like you said, they delayed the game into the ground, and it's supposed to release, I forget when exactly, within the next 2 to 3 weeks as of this recording. But I don't know where to find it, but I guess if you do know, you could just find it and play it in advance if you want.
If you want to do that, these days games without their day one patch are sometimes unplayable, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah. Leaks suck. They shouldn't happen. And, both with news but also especially with games. So this is kind of bad, pretty bad, but this is the world we live in now, I guess.
I feel like I'm running very low on my supply of it is what it is, but...
It's true. It is what it is, but what will be, we will be talking about in the next segment, which I don't know what I'm supposed to call that yet. This, topic of the week, topic of the episode, some spiffy name related to games. We'll come up with something. But yes, let's get into that. All right, what we want to talk about at the tail end of this episode, because the main brunt of this was the talk about the games that we played, but we also want to talk about the games that we might play this year, stuff that comes out this year on the games that is on the games calendar that we're looking forward to. Notwithstanding that some of these might still be moved to next year if something goes awry, and also me actually buying them this year, which might or might not happen. But just looking at what comes out this year, right, or is supposed to come out, and what of those, which of those interest us. The first one that is imminent in like 2 weeks or something is Fatal Fury: City of the Wolves, which is the sequel to Garou Mark of the Wolves and the first mainline Fatal Fury game since that. Did we have? We had some spin-off Maximum Impact and stuff like that between. But
there's been a few King of Fighters games, yeah.
King of Fighters we had a lot of, but real Fatal Fury games, like with only the Fatal Fury guys, I don't think so. So yeah, I have been looking forward to that for a while. They had a open beta test, which apparently had some issues, especially in terms of matchmaking. But the game looks cool. I like the art style they chose for this, which is this, kind of cel-shaded thing going on. Comic booky style, kind of an evolution of Marvel's Capcom 3, I would say. And we're gonna have some guest characters in the form of Ken and Chun-Li, which is gonna be pretty cool. Interesting to see how they play. Some of that stuff in the mechanics looks like they lifted that from Street Fighter 6. Like, with the bar, kind of stamina bar that can also be powered out, and then you're in a bad state or whatever, can't do all your moves.
It works.
Yeah, but it looks fun. It got even more stuff that you can do, like air blocking and stuff like that. So I'm really interested to see to play it. I didn't get around to playing the beta because I didn't have any time. But
I installed it one night and then I forgot about it.
Yeah, but maybe they'll do another one, and then I will check it out. And otherwise, I'll see. The problem is, I don't know if I'll buy this at launch, but I should, because fighting games, especially if they're not the big names like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, have a big falling off point after like a couple of weeks. So where not a lot of people are playing them anymore, or not as many, definitely. So that's one of the games that I definitely want to get in on from the beginning. So we'll see how that works out. But John, you gonna get it?
One of the nice things is that they're including the first season of characters with the price tag.
Yes.
So,
that's pretty good. That's true.
Because I was looking at the Steam page, I was like, okay, City of the Wolves Deluxe Edition. Where's the not Deluxe Edition? Oh, okay, that's just edition. Okay.
yeah, that's pretty good.
Excuse me, City of the Wharves.
Yeah. Sure. But I assume you're gonna get it. You got that marked as one of your must buys, or is that still a maybe for you?
Oh yeah, I wish I'd gotten my hands on it, the beta, but I definitely want to check it out because I loved Mark of the Wolves, even though I was certifiably terrible at it, but it was still fun.
Yeah, definitely fun game. Looking forward to it. The next thing that would be coming out, and I'm also very much looking forward to, again, no idea if I'll buy it this year, but this is the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, now called Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. I don't know who from the original team is even involved in this. Kojima definitely isn't.
That's a big question mark.
Yeah, so it looks just like right now like a graphically updated version of Snake Eater. I mean, it's been a long time since I played that game and loved it, but I didn't spot anything in the most recent trailer from, I think it was during the State of Play, where I don't think I spotted anything new that was not in the old game, technically. Of course, it looked differently. Maybe some scenes will be moved around and stuff like that, but right now it seems to be like a one-to-one remake, and just, graphically a lot prettier, of course.
Yeah, I'm sort of mixed on this one because I love Metal Gear and Snake Eater is fantastic. I just don't think there's any purpose in this remake existing.
Sure. I mean, you can still play Snake Eater, I guess.
Like Subsistence just released in the Master Collection.
Yes, exactly.
And it's a perfectly valid way to play it.
Yes. I mean, maybe also consider it more of a remaster, I guess. But, I mean, remake counts if the graphic upgrade is big enough. If you want to play with updated graphics, if that is enough reason for you to play it again, then be cool. And I think they re-recorded the voice, the dialogue. I think David Hayter is back as Snake.
I think it's just all the old recordings, man. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh, I thought they just got him back and had him re-record.
No, as far as I might be wrong, but as far as I knew, they're just using the old recordings.
That's also fine. Like, the old recording is good. But yeah, just it's gonna be Snake Eater again. It's gonna be prettier Snake Eater. So as far as we can determine right now, and that's fine. Fine for me anyway. But I don't know when I will play it. Probably when it has been discounted a bit. But this will be one of the games I will eventually check out. The next game I'm very much looking forward to, which is the new game from Hazelight. That's the studio's name, right?
Yes.
The people who made technically brothers, A Way Out, and It Takes Two, especially. I mean, It Takes Two, I loved. I played that together in co-op with someone. We had a great time. It's definitely one of those games where, like, I can't believe I'm still getting new shit out of this game. Like, it was such a great gameplay experience. The story is, well, it's all right. It's cute, but also a bit annoying in parts. But it's fine. It is what it is. But the gameplay of that game, the game design, and all the different things that you can do in that game, and it always coming around with the new gameplay mechanic, even in its final stretch, was just crazy to me. And it looked really good. And it's just one of those standout co-op experiences that if you love couch co-op and you want to play that with your significant other or with someone else, with a good buddy, whatever. I love that game. I haven't played the other ones, though I heard they are fantastic too. At least Brothers is good. I don't know about... I think A Way Out is good too. I wanted to play that eventually as well. Looking forward to that as well. I just think their diehard focus on co-op and tailoring the experience specifically to that is great, and Split Fiction just looks like it's absolutely up my alley in terms of what it's doing with its game worlds and its two characters and something like that and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely looking forward to playing that with a good friend. We'll see when that will happen, but the Hazelight is just great at making, judging from It Takes Two, they're great at making couch co-op experiences. So looking forward to more of that.
And they're really neat with how you do the co-op if you're playing on different systems. I guess you get like a friend pass, and it works cross-platform too.
Yes. Yeah. Good stuff. Right. The next one would be the remaster of Suikoden 1 and 2. And I put that specifically on here because I've never played the originals.
Yeah, same. So I'm kind of curious about this too.
Yeah, especially Suikoden 2 is one of those games that always popped up for me back in the day in the PlayStation era. It's like, this is a really great game. I was I need to get around to play it eventually, and I never got around to play it. So I hope they do a good job with the remaster. I want to check it out because that is definitely one of those black marks in my gaming history. It's like this is one of those JRPGs that everyone was talking about and that I never got around to playing. So definitely want to check that out when it comes out. It's not going to be a high-profile release, but definitely one of those that I want to keep in mind. And I don't know if we got a physical version of this. I hope so.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
But we'll see. But yeah, definitely going to check that out. You probably too, John.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Next one is the Capcom Fighting Collection 2.
Yes.
So I've already got that pre-ordered because I was like, okay, that's gonna happen. Weirdly enough, I hadn't bought the Capcom Fighting Collection 1 because that was mostly Darkstalkers games, which I've never really got in touch with that franchise. Really, I played a bit of one game. I think I was like, that's neat, but maybe I should have gotten it. Eventually, I will probably get it. I think that also has Gem Fighter in there, which I always liked. So. Or Pocket Fighter. So, yeah, I will eventually get that as well, I think. But Capcom Fighting Collection 2 has, of course, Capcom vs. SNK 1 and 2. It has a Plasma Sword. It has...
what a pull, Plasma
Sword. Fucking love that game. I fucking liked Star Gladiator and Plasma Sword. I'm that weird guy that loved those games for some reason. I thought... it's so sad, in my opinion, that we never got one more out of that, kind of Capcom's version of Soul Calibur, but futuristic. And it's fun, especially Plasma Sword, because it's so much faster than Star Gladiator. Doesn't look particularly good. It's like even back in the Dreamcast days, it was like, okay, there are games that look better than this. But I liked it. I had fun, and it would be fun to get some matches in with people who have never played this, because it's wild. And of course, We're finally getting Project Justice. Get to play the game again. Oh god, I love Project Justice. Or Rival Schools 3, I guess.
Part of me sort of wishes Rival Schools was in there with it, but
I don't remember. Did Project Justice also have that giant dating sim part thing in there, or was that Rival Schools 1 or 2?
I think it was just Rival Schools.
I know they took that out for the Western release for whatever game that came with. So yes,
in the Western release, the Rival Schools was two discs, but one was like arcade and the other was like expansion with like a billion extra characters.
Yeah, but I love Project Justice. It's one of these are all these Dreamcast era cool Capcom side games that I was like, why are we not getting anything more of that? There's like more. That was still when Capcom was doing more experimentation with their fighting franchises, and that was a lot of fun. And I like that. It's super weird that they didn't put Techromancer on this. It should have been on there instead of fucking Capcom Fighting Jam or Evolution or whatever it's called.
Oh god, that's right. That's in there.
Nobody wants this. Nobody wanted that game, and this was like the worst choice. Like pull that out of there and put Techromancer in, and then you got the perfect collection. The perfect Dreamcast collection.
In one of the collections?
Cyberbots was... The Size Code Cyberbots was in the Beat 'em Up collection. I don't think the fighting game was in... Maybe it was in the first Capcom fighting collection. I'm not sure about that right now. But the side-scroll Cyberbots Beat 'em Up was in the Beat 'em Up collection. Yeah, but that was even earlier, I think. So if you want the perfect Dreamcast fighting game collection, you would have had it if they took out fucking Fighting Jam and put Techromancer in there instead. But we also get both Power Stones, which is great, which is probably the game aside from Capcom versus SNK 2 that everyone is going to play on that goddamn collection.
I can say for myself, I have been screaming for a re-release of Power Stone 1 and 2 for 2 decades.
And it's perfect. Like it's one of those games where it's like, this is the perfect party game, especially 2 where you can play with 4 characters. And now if that has solid online, which all of these fighting collections had up this point, then it's going to be a blast, and a lot of people are going to play this probably and have a good fun time with it. So you can see this Capcom, this fighting collection having bit more longevity because of the selection of games. We'll see. I'll probably be the only one who plays Plasma Stored, but whatever.
You know what? I will try it.
It is super fun.
I don't think I've ever actually put hands on all of the rest of the games. I have at least touched. That one I have not.
Like I said, I love Star Gladiator, though that's a much slower experience. But Plasma Sword is so fucking wacky and just crazy with how the combos works and everything. And I love that game. I think it's fucking fantastic. Good times, just like Project Justice, which just, God, I want a new Rival Schools games. I mean, I know I will never get a new Star Gladiator game, but come on, a new Rival Schools game, Capcom? Is that so ridiculous a thing to ask? Like, come on, give it to me.
I mean, they had Akira in Street Fighter V in her Rival Schools outfit, not in the Skullomania one. So come on,
yes.
What are we doing here?
Come on. We'll see. Maybe we'll at least get another.
Speaking of, where's my Street Fighter EX? Huh?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the next collections that they might do, right? Where it's like PlayStation collection, and we get all Street Fighter EXs, and maybe we'll get then the first Star Gladiator, which is weird, like that they released the third Rival Schools game and the second Star Gladiator game before they released the first ones. But apparently PlayStation 1 emulation is a bit, or that particular board is a bit tougher to do. So, and they wanted to get Capcom vs. SNK out there, I assume. So, yeah, we'll see what comes next. But they still got a lot of great fighting games in their backlog that they can put into collections, and I hope they will do that. So we'll see.
I'm super happy about CVS and CVS2, just because it felt like for the longest time, that's not going to happen. But then when there was the re-release of SVC Chaos, it was like, wait, maybe,
yeah. And apparently, I mean, Capcom and SNK have been on friendly terms now for a longer while, and now they have these a lot of these co-ops, most recently in Street Fighter 6 and now in City of the Wolves, and gonna happen that, and yeah, it's a good time to be a fighting game fan, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Last one for me that I put on here is the one we just quickly mentioned in when we talked about the state of play, and that's the new Shinobi game, Art of
Yes,
Mountains.
it looks so good.
We're also getting a new Ninja Gaiden game, a 2D game, which also looks fantastic. I don't know if that's supposed to come out this year.
I'm not sure when Ragebound is supposed to release, but when they announced, Art of Vengeance is being worked on by the same dudes that did Streets of Rage 4,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, then it's guaranteed to be good.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely gonna look good, but it's also gonna play good. So, yeah, absolutely
Ragebound
looking
has
forward.
a release window of summer, so
Yeah, definitely gonna get that because I like me 2D platforming action games, and Shinobi is one of the greats, and the art style of this is ridiculously cool. So, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which also looks fantastic. So whenever that is coming out, and of course I'm also gonna get that. But yeah, that's it for my games that so far have been announced for this year. Of course, there are a lot of more games in the pipeline, but we just looked at the games that were put, that already have a release for this year assigned. So, John, what are the games that you are looking forward to, aside from the ones we already mentioned?
yeah. I talked briefly about Hell Is Us and Lost Soul Aside when we talked about the state of play. So, those look cool.
Yeah.
Looking forward to them.
Absolutely.
There's Doom, the Dark Ages.
Yes.
Rip and tear.
Doom in the Dark Ages, literally. Gonna control a
sword
big
and
old
shield.
dragon.
You're running sword and board as Doom Slayer.
Yes. I still need to play through Eternal. I recently replayed the Doom, was it 2016? The remake?
I started playing that and I haven't gotten around to finishing it, but whoa, that game is a rush.
That is fantastic. I love that game. Bounced off Eternal on the first try. I'm gonna get back to that before I play Dark Ages, but
Here Eternal does some slightly different things that some people are like,
yeah. Then there was also that drama with the soundtrack and everything. With Professor Mick Gordon, the soundtrack composer, had some issues with the creative director of the game and stuff like that, and that resulted in a subpar release of the soundtrack. But aside all of that, Eternal, I think the main gameplay thing with the you being able to hook yourself to the enemies and then get them with a shotgun shot or whatever, that looks really cool. I just it plays and feels a bit different than or a lot different than the first Doom remake, whatever. So that's maybe why I bounced off it, but I'll get back to it eventually, and then I will also get to the Dark Ages. The trailer looked really fun, like the stuff you can do with your shield and everything, and then you get to control a dragon, you get to control a giant ass mech, and yeah, sure, I'm absolutely up for that.
Just go ham with it. Why not?
Yeah.
After that is actually a lot of the rest of what I'm curious about is stuff that I had missed in the past. So next up is the Lunar Remastered collection.
Is that coming out this year?
Yeah, I think in like April.
Cool.
Because I never really got a chance to put hands on the Lunar games, but and every time I think the one time they re-released it, it was sort of like a not great version. So it's nice to see that there's something coming out that's definitely true to the original intent. So I'm looking forward to
GBA or
that.
the DS?
I think, well, I don't think people talk about Lunar DS, but I don't remember what the deal was with the GBA one. I just remember that if you wanted to play Lunar, the best way was to play the original. So now hopefully this will remedy that.
Well, I played Silver Star Story, the remastered whatever thing for the PlayStation. That, for the original PlayStation, the US version of that, the US PlayStation version of the first Lunar. I don't know, complete. It was called Complete. Lunar Silver Star Story Complete. And I liked that game a lot. I know it had some issues, which at the time I didn't really notice. I think, aside from the super high random encounter rate, I think that was one of the big issues there. Maybe they made it also in general a bit more difficult than the Japanese version.
Yeah, here Working Designs was kind of infamous for
Yeah.
making changes like that
Yeah.
back in the 90s.
But also, which was not necessarily a thing back in the days, they put a lot of work in to the localization and the voice work and everything. And I remember that having a really good dub, and me just enjoying the shit out of that, out of the anime sequences that were in the game. I just watched them stand alone on my PC many times after I played the game because I thought they were so fucking cool. And there's was also at the end credits, there's this neat, after the end credits, there was this neat, and I hope they put that in the Remastered collection, outtake reel from the voice actors, which is really funny. Yeah, really funny stuff, like them just doing outtakes for like 15 minutes or something, or 10. It was pretty long, and I enjoyed that a lot. It was also really fun. So I hope that's in the Remastered collection as well. We'll see.
Maybe.
Otherwise, I'll just play it in Japanese. But I've never played Lunar 2, so this will be my first time playing that as well. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm also looking forward to revisiting the first Lunar. It's been ages since I've played that, but when I played it back in the day, I really enjoyed it. I think I played through it. I think I only played through it one time, but I watched, like I said, the videos, the movie sequences, the cutscenes many times. And there's some magic moments in that game, especially Lunar's song and everything. And yeah, liked it a lot. So looking forward to it. That makes me happy. I forgot that this was coming out this year. So cool.
Yeah. Game Arts has this cool catalog of old RPGs, like the Lunars, the Grandias, for better and for worse with some of those. But it's nice to see some of their work being brought back and more accessible.
Yeah. I mean, we already get a Grandia collection. Still need to play that. I don't even know. Did that only have 1 and 2, or did that also have Extreme on there?
It was just 1 and 2.
Yeah.
3, 4, and Extreme are still gridlocked to the PS2.
4?
Yeah, wait, I think there was...
No, there was no Grandia.
Or am I losing my mind?
There was only Extreme in 3, I think. I don't think we got another Grandia after 3.
Hey, I'm gaslighting myself today.
I'm pretty sure. If I missed Grandia 4,
right.
I'm gonna
I just
shoot
looked
myself. So
why did I say that? What's wrong with me, man?
I don't know. But yeah,
well, I guess there were other games like Parallel Trippers and Grandia Online.
doesn't count. But yeah, I was sure that they didn't put Grandia 3 in there, which is also maybe the weakest game out of the 3. But I wondered if they maybe put Extreme in there, which was also more of a spin-off than an actual new Grandia game. But still more.
I guess from a preservation standpoint, it should happen. But
we'll see. We'll see if it happens. I mean, now there are ways to emulate this pretty well. Because at least the PlayStation games, and I think PlayStation 2 emulators have also come a long way. So Grandia 3 is also playable if you can get your hands on it. But yeah, I agree with you. Game Arts has a lot of good stuff, and I hope we'll get to see more of it in the future. Re-released.
Mm-hmm. Next up is The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky First, which... There's a lot of The Legend of Heroes. There's a lot. But this in particular interests me because I've always been, sort of casting a side eye at Trails in the Sky, wanted to get to it. And this looks like a neat, action RPG remake of the first, where that one was more turn-based. I think turn-based games turn-based RPGs have their place, but I've come to dislike action RPGs a lot more in recent years. But as far as I can tell, it's sort of like a hybrid between the two, where you can kind of switch your styles. And Oh, excuse me. They're called it's Trails in the Sky First Chapter. So I wonder if they're going to do 2 and 3 at some point as well. But we'll see. Wanted to see the story of Estelle and Joshua as it played out in the original. Like I kind of put hands on the original really briefly, but since this nicer, shinier, prettier version is going to be releasing soon, whenever soon is, thank you, Steam. I would like to, play. I figure I'd play the newer version instead.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the Trail series. Don't know if I'll ever get to it.
Yeah, Falcom just keeps pushing them out and remaking one. At this point, I think the only Ys game that doesn't have a remake is 5.
Also, a series that I've only played one game a bit of, which was, I think, 5. What's that where the main character gets swept away to an island or something like that?
That's 6.
Then maybe it was 6.
But that's also not a unique plot thread for Adol Kristen. So.
Okay.
But yeah, 5 was released on the Super Famicom back in the day. So, and that is like all of the other ones have modern versions or re-releases, except for that one. So there's that. A lot of people are really hoping that Falcom will eventually do a remake or re-release of Popful Mail. So, but in the short term, I would like to put hands on Trails in the Sky. So eventually, yes. There's a lot to do with that because there's Trails in the Sky. There's God, what are the other ones? There's spin-off series: Trails Through Daybreak, Trails Through Trails in the Sky, Trails of Cold Steel, Trails into Reverie. There's a lot, but that also ties into one of their oldest series. I think it was called Dragon Slayer back in the day. So they've been kind of building and playing off of that for a better part of 3 decades. So
interesting. Let's see if I ever get to dip my toe into their games catalog. So far, that has eluded me for one reason or another. But like I said, I've heard so many good things about the Trail series that I kind of wanted to give it a go at some point. But we'll see when I get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I recently finished Ys Memories of Celceta, so I can actually maybe play Ys 8, 9, and 10.
10 Ys games, okay.
Wait, no, that's right. I'm waiting on 10 because they released it, and then Falcom was like, oh, we're releasing an updated version. It's like, come on, guys. Come on. So I'm waiting on Ys 10. But yes, that's that. Last thing is Onimusha 2 and Onimusha Way of the Sword. I'm just going to lump them together because why not? I know there's the remake of 1 out there, and I just haven't touched it yet. But it's cool to see that 2 is getting a remake. I do wonder if they'll be able to do 3 at some point, or if, because I think, what was his name? It was in that Genre No.
Yeah.
Maybe there might be some legal red tape on that.
Maybe.
But we'll see. But, cool to see that 2 is coming back. I want to eventually play that because I kind of passed over those games back in the day. And then Way of the Sword just looks gorgeous. And Musashi looks like he'll be a fun character to play as. Like, my favorite part of that one trailer was just him, like, looking all confident and laughing, and he turns away from the enemy. He's like, and then suddenly, yabe. It's like, it's like, okay, so there's more than one side to this character. I like that.
Yeah, he's a fun jokester, kind of goofy guy, who is also probably very capable at fighting. So, a bit of a Jackie Chan vibe, I guess, and that's gonna be interesting. It seems to be it's gonna be a very bloody game.
Oh yeah,
but that's cool. Like, I hope the mechanics live up to par. I've never played the Onimusha games, not familiar with them at all. I mean, I've watched a retrospective recently on all of them, which was very interesting and entertaining. but never got around to playing them. Always in the back of my head was like, oh, it's ancient Japan Resident Evil in a way.
Yeah,
in terms of
basically.
let's play.
I mean, apparently, I'm looking at How Long to Beat. They're not super long games. Like the first one
Yeah.
was maybe 4 to 6 hours, and the second one was like 10 to 12. So
Yeah.
it would at least be breezy to get through.
Yes, and I can assume, or I would assume, that the remasters would have at least 1 or 2 quality of life fixes in terms of, maybe better reset points or save system or whatever, or some stuff to make it easier for newcomers or whatever. Yeah, if maybe I'll get around to it eventually.
I forgot that Dawn of Dreams and Genma were also entries in the series. Huh. Oh, Genma is just the Xbox version of Onimusha
Yes.
one. Never mind. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes. That's how it was. True. Yeah. Sure. Also looking forward to Way of the Sword. I'm just happy for Onimusha fans who just haven't gotten anything out of that series in forever, and now finally getting a good game. I mean, there are a lot of samurai games at this point, or in recent years. Like, there was definitely not shortage of that. And we'll see when people will have enough of that particular brand of action game. But
I wonder if this would spur Sony to jump back into Genji at some point, or at least re-release the first Genji game, because the second game not so much, but the first one is a banger. It's so good.
I mean, now they have Ghost of whatever.
Yeah, Ghost of
Tsushima or Yote, so that's probably their main focus when it comes to that genre right now. But who knows? Maybe,
yeah, true.
Maybe they'll give Genji another go. But yeah, that's some of the games that are coming out this year. There's probably going to be more announced down the road that get a shadow drop or whatever, or a quick release, and of course talk about those whenever we do the next episode of this. But for now, that's it for the first beta inaugural, test episode of Freeze Frames Per Second. Feel free to let us know if you like the format of the show, if you would like to see something else with that, if you have any feedback, please. The usual channels, you know them from our Anime Brave Freeze proper episode outros. And yeah, hope to talk to you again soon. We're definitely going to talk about anime soon again, coming at the end of this month. But also at the beginning of the next. But also maybe in the not too distant future, another episode about games. So until then, stay frosty and enjoy gaming.
Take care, everybody.